News regarding Everton and that 10-point deduction. Our chief football correspondent Alex Crook joins us. Alex, so good news effectively for Everton fans.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. You say very positive for Everton. I'm expecting a statement from both them and the Premier League shortly to confirm their 10-point deduction for breaching the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules has been reduced to 6 points. Of course, they were hit with 10 points initially. They felt the punishment was way over the top for only breaching those profit and sustainability rules by around about £20 million. They blamed it on interest payments relating to loans for the rebuild of their new stadium, which I have to say looks fantastic. And this is significant not just for Everton, but of course for all the teams fighting against relegation. It puts them back onto 25 points. They'll move up to 15th in the Premier League table. So it's bad news for the likes of Luton. Sheffield United and Burnley are probably gone already. I'm getting more information on it all of the time. Just had a message to confirm that the independent appeal panel has decided to reduce the points deduction from 10 to 6. So as expected, the appeal board overturned the commission's finding that the club failed to act in utmost good faith, which along with reducing the points deduction was an incredibly important part of the principle of this appeal for the club. The appeal board took the view the 10-point sanction imposed by the commission was inappropriate when compared to the available benchmarks which the club had drawn to the Commission's attention, including most notably the position under the relevant EFL regulations. Of course, there is still a second charge hanging over Everton for their latest set of accounts, so there's a possibility they could be hit with a further points deduction, but I think they'll be quite bullish after that appeal that maybe that won't happen now.
I wonder if that is the tariff now, 6. I wonder if that's what, other teams like Forest who've got that hanging over their heads, or will it be sort of fact specific? But if you are Forest and you're looking at that thinking, okay, we could lose 6 points, where does that mean? That does put them in the bottom 3 currently, but I'm interested to know whether 6 is where it's at for similar charges.
Well, I think it'll be a case-by-case basis. Obviously, as I mentioned, Everton felt that their overspend wasn't that dramatic, and that there were mitigating circumstances behind it. Obviously, Forest is a little bit more complicated. The main grounds for appeal they claim to have is that they could have sold Brennan Johnson much earlier in the transfer window. They could have taken a lower offer from Brentford of £30 million. They waited until right at the back end of the summer transfer window, sold him for £44 million, but that fell outside the accounting period, so therefore it put them in the red. So it'll be interesting to see if that one holds up. But I think it will be individual cases, but I think Everton will be quite pleased this lunchtime.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks very much.
Cheers out.
Cheers, guys.
Alex Crook there. And interested to hear from you, Evertonians. We'll get some reaction to that from Everton fans. But interested to hear from you this afternoon. What do you make of that? I think that was the expectation. The feeling was it would be reduced to 6. But let us know what you think. 03717223344, talksport.com, text to 81089, tweet to TSH and J. We will be covering Everton, their game against Brighton, in the next 40-odd minutes or so, because Danny Kelly joins us, as always. Good afternoon, Danny.
Good afternoon, everybody. All good, yeah?
Hello, Danny.
Yeah, not too bad.
How did you let Andy get away on the weekend of the League Cup final?
Yes, he's travelled quite a long way not to...
He's gone to another hemisphere, I understand, yeah?
I wonder if it would have been Gary Neville getting the stick or the team, I don't know. But he's not fed back to me yet. He's gone very quiet.
He'd have been very balanced about it.
Yeah, he's quite a stoic character when it comes to football.
Paul and Perry, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but since you've been talking about Stan Bowles, I can add a story about Stan and what kind of bloke he was, right to the latter stages of his life, and I must get it out here. I don't want to be... You know how people say you mustn't speak ill of the dead. I'm not speaking ill of him. I loved Stan. I paid actual money to go and watch QPR when I was a teenager, so you could watch that one footballer. But much more recently, 7 or 8, maybe 9 years ago, I can't remember exactly, he was supposed to be on My Sporting Life, and myself and the producer went up to Manchester, knocked on the door where we'd been told who he was living. A voice from inside the door, clearly Stan Bowles. You got the money? Sorry? Have you got the money? And he wouldn't do the thing because he'd been promised X hundreds of pounds.
Right.
We thought this had all been sorted out, or that, he'd be invoices. He wouldn't do it unless he got cash. Off we trolled, Paul, to a cash point. I took out the money on my credit cards, I think I remember, and he said, put it through the door. So we put the money through the door.
Yeah.
It wouldn't open the door. We never did the interview. We just kept the money.
Oh, dear.
And we got back on a train and went back down to London. And Stanley got the money. And TalkSport reimbursed me, as I recall. But, he just had the money. Thanks very much. I need that. He didn't do it.
Dan, I think he probably had people to see or places to go, which
Yes.
was more important.
I suspect I wasn't top of his list of priorities for the day, Perry, I'll be honest with you. But it was so funny when I put the money, and of course I didn't have an envelope, so I'm putting it in increments through the door, and I could hear him rustling it on the other side of the letterbox. Didn't open the door.
He probably had someone the other side of the door, probably at the back door, demanding money reminiscences. Because
who knows, Paul?
Quite possibly.
But if it almost anybody else, I'd have been inclined to shoulder charge the door.
Yeah.
In the style of a cop show. It's Stan Bowles. What did you expect, Danny? Come off it, man.
That make you love him even more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've got a Stan Bowles story now.
Yeah,
absolutely. A working class hero is something to be, as the great man of me
That's
once
true.
said.
Let's get your thoughts on Everton. We'll come on to the game, but what do you make of that?
Really, really interesting, this, Paul, because the appeals committee will have to explain in very great detail why they have reduced it. And I say this because, you say, Nottingham Forest are also involved. But the elephant in the room is Manchester City, isn't it? They have been charged with far greater number and far wider breaches of the rules. And if they are found guilty, and they've not been found guilty, the punishments handed out to other clubs will be the benchmark by which they are judged. So these cases, as they come in, and there'll be more of them, I guess, over the next 18 months, they're important because it goes right to the top of English football. We're into new territory here, aren't we? Docking teams points for these offences. It's great news for Everton, obviously, and I don't know what the second round of charges, how it differs, and then maybe they'll find more points. We'll see. Look, you don't want to see clubs relegated because of off-field offences. On the other hand, you've got to defend the rules are there for everybody, or else they're not worth having, are they?
No.
And to be fair, it has had a massive effect, isn't it, on the January transfer window? Because you look at Arsenal nearly centre forward, and they think, no, FFP, we can't go and do it. Newcastle, it's clipped their wings. Yeah. So it is going to make it, in a roundabout way, more of a level playing field.
And also maybe a tension in the way Everton have been playing. We saw them, equaliser.
Yeah, they haven't won in 8 or 9
day.
now, have they?
Yeah, 9 I think it is. Yeah.
And maybe this will allow them to play with a little bit more. I mean, they're not completely out of it. They've got to, but. You would imagine it could affect the way that they play their games, maybe with a touch. I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin hasn't scored for
20 games. Exactly,
which is.
We can put a positive spin, which it is for Everton fans, and Sean Dyche, and say, actually, we're unbeaten in 2, so winning a draw, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. No, that is very true. I'm sure that's what he'll be doing.
Well, it's certainly the most points gained over one weekend ever by a Premier League club, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And as Alex was saying, it's going to be interesting to see what happens on these other charges against Everton and Forest, because they've got to be dealt with by the end of the season, I believe.
The problem there is timing, isn't it? We're already, what are we? We're almost in March now. What if they're dealing with these things in mid-April? And you get docked 6 points, you get docked 10 points, whatever it is. You've got no chance to recover whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's a double injustice. You're not being punished in the time frame in which the offences occurred, and also that's one way in which it's wrong. And then secondly, you're not getting a chance to recover from whatever punishment comes your way. No. It's a mess. I understand that they have to do the problem is the clubs will. This has to be. You have these independent panels, then you have an appeals procedure. This inevitably takes time. And time is the enemy of this kind of justice. The problem is if they don't go through these long-winded procedures, Paul and Perry, what will happen. This will end up in the courts, and then the season will be delayed. The start of the following season.
Do you think as well, though, Everton obviously admitted it, didn't they? And that was done a lot quicker than the other charges. So you think if it happens in future that clubs will be a little bit more ready to say, actually, yes, we have.
They never denied that they had broken the rules. They were not. They felt the charge was draconian, and it seems like the appeal procedure agrees.
Well, both Forest and Everton's defence seems to be Spurs didn't give us the money in time.
Yes.
For both Richarlison and Brennan Johnson,
Well,
isn't it? That seems to be the...
For Stan Bowles, read Daniel Levy. What did you expect? Thank you. All right, Danny, we'll get stuck into the Carabao Cup final very shortly. If you're just joining us, Everton's 10-point deduction has been reduced on appeal to 6 points. And, of course, there are other charges that they will be, potentially they could be looking at maybe another 6, as could Forest. Who knows if that's the tariff or not? I suppose it does depend on circumstances. But good news for Evertonians today. We'll get reaction later on. Interested to hear from you, Evertonians. Were you expecting that? Was that your feeling? Did you gird yourself for that 6 points? Will you take that, or do you still think it's unfair? 03717 223344 talksport.com. Text 81089. Tweet TSH&J.
On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.
We've got the Athletics football correspondent David Ornstein, as well as our Liverpool reporter James Pearce. James, let's start with you. I mean, in the words of the famous Who song, I guess the kids are all right, aren't they? Liverpool won their 10th League Cup on Sunday. And just explain the significance of this one in particular, because Jurgen Klopp thought, this was very special, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's all about the circumstances. I think probably some people will see Jurgen Klopp's post-match comments talking about this being the most special trophy of his career and think, well, hang on a minute. You've won the Bundesliga with Dortmund. You've won the Champions League. You were the man who ended the 30-year wait for a Premier League title at Liverpool. But I think we know what he was getting at, because it's all about the context and the circumstances surrounding this. And, to think that Liverpool went into the final without 11 members of the senior squad due to injury, then, the horrible sight of Ryan Gravenberch being stretchered off in the first half. So then you're up to a dozen members missing. And then when you look at, the inexperience and the youth of the players he pretty boldly turned to as the afternoon grew on, you thought, well, surely common sense dictates that Chelsea, when they're throwing on 150 million quid's worth of talent off the bench, they have to be the ones that are going to finish the stronger, and Liverpool will ultimately be found wanting. But it was a real Herculean effort, epitomised by their inspirational leader in Virgil van Dijk, because those young boys who will, whatever they go on achieve in the rest of their career, they will never ever forget that Sunday afternoon at Wembley. And they were certainly shown the way by Van Dijk, who I thought was absolutely immense on the day.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of those young players, and David, I will bring you in just a second. We just got to indulge James for just a little bit longer on this topic. But as someone who's followed Liverpool for many years, when you see players like Bobby Clark, James McConnell, Jadon Danns, Gerard Kanza, Conor Bradley warming up to come onto the pitch in such a pivotal game, what feelings goes through your head at that moment in time? Because this is a vital game.
Yeah, I think it was more like, it was a sense of, wow, he really, the manager really is bold and brave here. Because I think a lot of other managers would have stuck with tiring senior players and thought, well, I'd rather have a shattered McAllister or a Gakpo out there than turn to players that are so unproven. Because I think, you can't underestimate the significance of stepping out in front of nearly 90,000 people in a major final. I mean, Jadon Danns, that story is just extraordinary. He wasn't even training with the senior squad, 5-6 weeks ago. He came off the bench for 2 minutes in midweek to make his senior debut against Luton. And then suddenly he's leading the line for Liverpool in a major final. And, it's, you go through it, you're right, McConnell, Kwanzaa's come from absolutely nowhere this season. Same with Bradley. In terms of both Kwanzaa and Bradley have really grasped opportunities that have come their way due to, of course, those injuries to Matip and Alexander-Arnold. And then, Bobby Clark, had loads of loan interest in him, in January. But Liverpool were like, no, we may well need him as cover. And, that has proved that to be worked out perfectly for all parties, because I think he's made 7 appearances for Liverpool since the turn of the year and just seems to have grown in stature with every time. So, it was you could see, you would have to say it was something of a risk playing the kids, but I think that's the thing with Klopp. He's always shown the courage of his convictions, and ultimately on the day, fortune favoured the brave.
David, I want to go into this idea of an understanding a bit more about academy recruitment, because I look at all these young players coming on for Liverpool. I mean, was this a win for academy coaching or more academy recruitment? And can you just give us an insight as to how Liverpool operate within their policy around academy recruitment?
The short answer is both recruitment and coaching, IO. But this isn't just an overnight success or a flash in the pan, or how we've seen with maybe Louis van Gaal at Manchester United when he introduced kids some years ago. That was out of necessity, not out of desire. And the proof was in the pudding, because when players became fit again, those youngsters were nowhere to be seen largely, and aren't at Manchester United anymore. You get a very different feeling with what's going on at Liverpool. And I don't just want to single out Van Gaal and United. There are a number of clubs who you could accuse of not having enough faith in young players. I mean, ironically, it was Alan Hansen of Liverpool legend who said you can't win anything with kids, but you absolutely can, evidently. And what Liverpool are seeing now are the fruits of a very long and diligent labour. And we've got to credit Alex Inglethorpe, who heads up the academy operation. I believe he was actually brought to the club by Brendan Rodgers quite some time ago. And so a nod to the foundations that were starting to be laid under Fenway Sports Group a long time back. And they clearly identified that getting it right at that level will have fantastic repercussions further down the line. And I know something that you want to talk about is how things operate at Liverpool. There was a really good interview with Alex Inglethorpe in the Telegraph by Jamie Carragher, himself a youth product of Liverpool. And he talks really interestingly about a limitation on salaries at that age group. I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, maximum of £50,000 a year. A limitation on car engine sizes to 1.3 litres. That's mainly for safety, but also for the impression it sends out. And he says that if he sees a Range Rover in the academy car park, he'll send it next door. They're very conscious about if they come in some really expensive watch. And it's not so much about those possessions, it's the message that it sends out. It's the character, as he describes it, the behaviours and the values that are being exhibited, because you're on show. You're being looked at by the senior pros and staff, and even more so now that Liverpool have moved to a new training ground where everybody is in the same place. And arguably the most standout thing that Alex Inglethorpe said in that interview was that they've done some analysis inside the club and they believe that they have around £300 million worth of young talent at their disposal. They've not been bought in at massive expense, certainly not at the expense that some other clubs have tried to do. And they are sitting on a gold mine. They are being looked at by many other clubs across the Premier League and the world as the example. So are Manchester City and others, because they've done really well too. But some clubs are just nowhere near this now, and they're trying to embark upon it. They're going to be investing in their young players, especially pertinent post-Brexit with some of the regulations that limit the influx of players from Europe before the age of 18. And it seems that Liverpool, like with many things, were ahead of the curve, and they're seeing the benefits now. It was only one occasion on the biggest possible stage in terms of crowd size and a trophy at stake, maybe not the biggest competition, but it serves as something really positive, and we should temper it, because Chelsea, for example, who a lot of people seem to be deriding and laughing at, they're a very young team and squad, not only in age but in terms of the stage of their development. They've been the youngest squad in the Premier League this season. So Liverpool's young players are benefiting from a club that is already set up, and a structure and processes and where they are on their journey and their genesis for them to come in and succeed. There will be very tough days ahead. There will be very tough decisions ahead. There will be other clubs looking at them. They won't all make the cut. But what we're looking at now is really the gold standard, and Liverpool, their supporters, and everybody connected with the club will be delighted. And that's why I even heard staff around the club saying yesterday that this is the really most important or satisfying trophy of the entire era, not because of it being the League Cup and being Klopp's final season, but because of what it meant in terms of the young players and the circumstances around it all. And when you look at it in that context, as opposed to that headline, it's understandable.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the future of English football, and yeah, I mean, not to say there's a positive to come out of Brexit, but for me, in terms of the development of young British players, which is something the Premier League has always been criticised for in terms of giving them first team chances, you're seeing now a birth of young English players coming through, not necessarily players like the likes of Fabregas, for instance, that would have come to Arsenal in place of players like this. This must be befitting for the future England squad, but also the Premier League in general, David.
Yeah, I'll just make a brief point on that. EPPP was brought into the Premier League some years ago, a big focus on academies and trying to get the homegrown talent right after multiple failures at international level, senior and junior. You could even say the women's side coming up at the same time too. That was never going to produce instant and immediate success. And even after that investment and after the building of the infrastructure and the processes inside the clubs, still the English clubs were not doing so well compared to their continental rivals. I look and speak to people in, say, Portugal, and there are platoons of these young players coming out of Sporting Lisbon, Porto, Benfica. You see the same in Spain at places like Atletico Madrid and Barcelona. France is an absolute hotbed of talent. It's regarded as one of the two key areas for youth development in the world, along with Brazil, which brings me on to South America. But finally, England is starting to catch up. Britain, you could say, because look at some of the Scottish players that have come to the Premier League academies in recent years. And the quality of work, which very rarely gets credited to English coaches, English clubs and systems, British coaches, clubs and systems and administrators as well, is now coming to the boil. The cream is rising, and it's brilliant to see. It's not going to stop being competitive because Europe will fight back. One thing to also say is everybody's branded this solely as a Liverpool academy success. It's not. Many of those players have come from other clubs, from the EFL. So credit to the English pyramid system, which is a big subject of conversation at the moment because of this new deal for football and the Premier League redistribution. But I think a word is deserved and praise for some of those clubs that have produced some of those boys we saw at Wembley yesterday, who are now in Liverpool colours, and Liverpool have taken them on really impressively so far.
Yeah, James, and look, I know you've got your Liverpool hat on for sure, but you look at players that have come in to Liverpool. You've got some really beautiful young stars coming through. Harvey Owen, for instance, £800,000 we've reported that was paid for him. He came from Wolves. Is it still does it then lead us to this point where there's a battle for the best talent, but they end up going to the bigger teams? Wolves are now void of this young kid who could potentially, be part of their system. He's now at Liverpool, sucking Wolves for wonderful talent.
Yeah, I think that's always been the case, hasn't it? The elite talent will always gravitate towards the biggest clubs. I think what's enabled Liverpool to be such an attractive proposition is, as David touched on earlier, it's not a case of offering untold riches to these young players and their families. It's very much about offering a pathway, and that pathway simply doesn't exist at some other elite clubs, because whether that's the structure isn't right, they don't have the manager or coaching staff who are prepared to kind of really show that trust and faith in young talent and persevere with them. So I think that whenever you speak to agents and families around the academy when I'm down at Kirkby, they always say the same, that that was the big lure for them of Liverpool, was that, yeah, of course, the badge and the history and the tradition, but they believe the kids will get an opportunity. Someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold's been the poster boy for so long, but now, suddenly there's all these other examples. You look at, Curtis Jones, who, of course, like Trent, was out injured on Sunday. We talked about the 5 really young rookies who were involved in the final, but Raheem Gallagher, was brought over, as a young teenager from Ireland, and he's been an absolute revelation. I'm not sure there's a better backup keeper around than Raheem Gallagher, and it has been a real kind of. I think they've been very clever in terms of the way they've gone about that recruitment, because it's not just a case of cherry picking the best kids from other clubs. And yeah, they've had to kind of pivot off the back of the Brexit changes. Stefan Bajcetic, who again was one of the injured players out on the weekend, he was like the last of the kind of the pre-Brexit signings. They could bring him in from Spain for, I think, £250,000. And so since then, there's been a much greater focus on young English talent. But yeah, when you think, I think Bobby Clark, even if all the various add-ons are ticked, will end up costing Liverpool £1.5 million. I think McConnell was 200 grand from Sunderland. You've got, Dan's has been with the club since the age of 8, Kwanzaa from the age of 5. So that's the other thing they've been very good at, is getting it right at pre-academy level. And that, Alex Inglethorpe have been fortunate enough to sit down with him many times over 12 years now at Liverpool. And he has really changed that approach in terms of how they recruit at the age of 6 and 7, because a lot of those kids, have, a lot of the kids we've seen in the Klopp era have been at the club that long. And it is about, he said he felt there was too much of an obsession with getting young kids in who were technically gifted. And he said, we've got to cast the net further afield, looking more at underprivileged communities. He felt the academy, when he walked in, was too middle class, too white, was how he described it. And so, that across the board. So when you're bringing these kids through from a young age, and then when you then need to complement it with elite talent, you've got that pathway you can show parents. That all adds together to be, ultimately the fruits of all that labour coming together on the biggest of stages at Wembley on Sunday.
Nice one. Well, let's move on, because no rest for Liverpool, really. Straight back to work ahead of their recent Carabao Cup win. They're playing Southampton in the FA Cup 5th round on Wednesday with a very depleted team. How is Klopp going to manage this one, James?
Well, he did say towards the end of his press conference at Wembley, he said, I don't know where we're going to find 11 players for Wednesday night, because it is a quick turnaround. And yes, they enjoyed the celebrations on Sunday, but even speaking to Andy Robertson in the mix zone after, he was like, we're back in at Kirkby on Monday morning. They flew back from Luton, no big party or anything like that, because there's just still too much to go at. And it's going to be another very youthful lineup against Southampton, no doubt about it. I mean, there was a couple of other really gifted kids on the bench who didn't get on in Kumas and Trey Ernie, who they signed from Leicester back in September. And it wouldn't surprise me if they were involved. Cade Gordon, another talented young player who's had issues with injuries the last couple of years. He wasn't in the squad on Sunday, but I think he'll be part of the setup against Southampton. They're waiting to find out the extent of what they believe is ankle ligament damage to Gravenberch after that horrible challenge from Caicedo. And even Wataru Endo, who I thought was absolutely sensational on the day, he came through the mix zone on crutches with his left foot in a protective boot. So the only bit of positive news was probably looking at the way Darwin Núñez celebrated that triumph. He can't be far away from playing again. The way that he didn't look particularly injured when he hurdled the advertising hoardings to get involved in the celebration. So yeah, obviously getting Núñez and Salah back, and Szoboszlai is not too far away. But it's a big ask, because it's not just the physical exertions, but the mental, I think, fatigue as well. Because yeah, I mean, it's almost unprecedented to think that you're in a position where you could potentially have 13, 14 even senior squad players missing in midweek.
I think we'll be seeing a very strong Liverpool still, though. We know, especially at Anfield, the groundswell of sort of emotion around the Jurgen Klopp departure, but also the adrenaline that now full and bigger stadium brings. It kind of rises Liverpool up, and they will still have some very good, more senior players, and there will be some more minutes given to these promising prospects and talents, which will be fascinating in its own right, because some may point out that you can come on at Wembley, as amazing as it is, that's one occasion, but can you keep doing it, playing 2 or 3 times a week? At that age, their bodies are still developing. Environmentally, it's a completely new challenge with the crowd and the different opponents and things, and in most players' development there would be some setbacks there would be some bumps in the road. You've got the chance to make mistakes, but not really when Liverpool are going for these 4 trophies. And a really interesting point, maybe I'll get James's view on this, is what is next for a lot of these players who might want more regular game time. Okay, not the very youngest ones, because there's still time, but somebody like Gallagher, there was interest in him, I think, from the likes of Wolves and Nottingham Forest in the summer. A lot of suggestions around many people that you speak to in the game is that he'll have to move because he's a first choice. He's becoming a first choice goalkeeper, and while Alisson's at Liverpool, it's not going to be there. And he's 25 now, maybe young for a goalkeeper, but he'll have his own ambitions. And a number of the others, if we look historically at Liverpool, they did make sales from academy level, whether it be somebody like Raheem Brewster as he came through. I know he'd previously been at Chelsea, players like Dominic Solanke, Jordan Ibe, Harry Wilson, and so on. So that, I guess, will be the next phase of this, a little bit further down the line.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see what happens next. I think you're right. I would be surprised if Liverpool are able to keep hold of Gallagher for another season. I just think he would have gone last summer, I think, if the right offer had come in. But there was a lot of interest. There was loan offers that Liverpool were never ever going to agree to because it just made no sense financially. And then, of course, I think there was a £15 million bid from Forest in January that again was far too late in the window and didn't come close to meeting their valuation. I think Liverpool view him as probably worth double that. But yeah, I think there is an acceptance. You can only keep hold of someone like him so long. He is, as you said, David, 25. He wants to play regularly. Klopp has kind of used the domestic cups as kind of to dangle the carrot and hope that there was enough kind of big occasions there to convince him that he still had a future at the club. But it's he would be the kind of the most obvious one, you'd think, in terms of adding to that kind of impressive amount of cash that's been generated from players who have emerged from the academy and they've developed. I think I think Alex Inglethorpe said himself it was around £160 million on his watch that they've generated from sales, and that figure's only going to grow. But I think the exciting thing is it's also going to save Liverpool a lot in terms of the transfer market. When you look at the emergence of someone like Jarrell Kwanzaa this season, there was a clamour to bring in another centre back. There was when Joel Matip suffered that ACL injury and was ruled out for the season, it was they have to go and buy in January, and then suddenly Kwanzaa put together this amazing sequence of performances where you thought, well, they don't, because why would you want someone else blocking his pathway? And the same with Conor Bradley. There's been a lot of talk that they needed to go and get a proper understudy for Alexander-Arnold, especially with the kind of the growing belief that Alexander-Arnold will become a kind of bona fide centre midfielder rather than this hybrid role he's been playing. But you look at Conor Bradley and you think, well, how much would you pay for Conor Bradley if he was playing somewhere else and you were looking to bring him in? So I think it all does add up. That you kind of think, there's going to be some tumultuous change at Liverpool this summer with the end of the Klopp era. Yet that does, the calibre of the talent there does bode well for the future in terms of trying to adjust to that adaptation, because let's not forget Liverpool with their self-sustaining business model, that is absolutely huge in terms of generating that revenue that then can be reinvested back into the squad.
James just took the words out my mouth. You and I have spoken so much about financial fair play, profitability.
I was literally going to go there as well. We're in sync here. I like it.
Yeah, remarkable. We've got a sixth sense. Let's talk about six, baby. So it's a key issue in football right now, and in the Premier League in particular. And so many clubs are looking over their shoulder on how they can balance the books and who they need to sell to remain compliant. And they're searching for academy players who might provide that pure profit. Well, Liverpool have got it in spades. They've really become one of, if not the most impressive recruitment operation, which is ironic because for a period it was derided as this transfer committee. It became a bit of a laughing stock, but both ins and outs. You could say they've not sort of replicated the Coutinho level, but I think nobody's replicating that level very easily in terms of what his sale brought in. And they have spent quite heavily. A lot of people pointing that out yesterday in terms of Alisson and Van Dijk. Van Dijk being a key player in that match. He didn't come for cheap by any means. But just in terms of if they do need to bring in some revenues from player sales, then they're spoilt for choice. And that's a position that many clubs would like to be in, and that should serve them really well. And crucially, with these young players as well, when we're looking to the next topic we're going to talk about in terms of the manager, head coach and sporting director, the transition at Manchester United post-Ferguson, and you could even say to an extent at Arsenal post-Wenger, I think you were looking around for who's going to lead this generation, who's going to be part of it. There's a lot of concerns in the squad, aging or wrong profiles. Is it a poison chalice for the next manager to come in? It proved to be with David Moyes and also Unai Emery to an extent. Well, you could argue that as tough an act as Jurgen Klopp will be to follow and as bigger shoes as they will be to fill, it's a really exciting time because the rebuild has already started and there'll be many coaches, managers out there who can't wait to get their hands on some of the quality and potential at their disposal.
Yeah, James, I mean, this sort of feel-good factor, and yes, there are lots of injuries, and you've still got senior players still to come back, but Liverpool has still got the Europa League, still 12 or so games in the Premier League to go before the end of the season. Is the emotion of Jurgen Klopp leaving allow it to feel like there's something really special happening at Liverpool now? And I want to, obviously temper excitement, but with the way the cup was won, does there feel like there's something romantic in the air right now at Liverpool?
Yeah, there does. I think you only had to see that classy gesture where when they were going up the steps, Van Dijk saying, I want you to lift this trophy with me, because they are all doing it for Klopp. That I think when the announcement was made at the back end of January, there was this feeling of which way is it going to go? Because for a lot of people it was a bolt out the blue, and it was a case of, well, is it going to be a distraction? Is it going to be like one of those, a shock to the system that potentially derails things, or is it going to bring everyone closer together and really galvanize them to think, right, this era ends on a high? And it's certainly been the latter so far, especially in such difficult circumstances with, one kind of, punishing injury setback after another, to keep on finding a way. I think they've played 7 games since Klopp's announcement. They've won 6 of them, if you include Sunday. So it's and that's I think also speaking to the players afterwards on Sunday, there's the feeling that this to win a trophy in that manner against the odds, really, I'd say, with the absentees, with the kids involved, that should act as the perfect springboard now for bigger prizes. Let's be honest, the Carabao Cup, as special as it was, that Klopp talked about, the other 3 would all mean more in the grand scheme of things. Of course, the Premier League title by far and away the biggest one they're chasing. So so yeah, there is a special feeling. I think you can see that togetherness, that resilience, that unity. Just that rendition of "You Never Walk Alone" with all of them linking arms in front of the Liverpool end was pretty spine tingling on Sunday. And they just need to get some bodies back. That's the thing, because spirit and resilience will carry you so far. But when you've got the kind of punishing schedule Liverpool have got coming up, and let's not forget, there's a little date with Manchester City at Anfield that's only a couple of weeks away now.
Isn't that straight after the Europa League match as well, which is going to be a tough one?
It is, that's why there's no real time to savor it, because it is Southampton. Then it's Forest away, which is not the easiest place to go to, and then you've got Sparta Prague away in the Europa League, and then 3 days later Man City coming to Anfield for what could potentially be a title decider. It feels like there's something special brewing, but there's still an awful long way to go before we can say that there'll be the dream finale to the Klopp era.
For sure. David, you alluded to it earlier, but let's talk about what the future's looking like or shaping up to look like for Liverpool. And we've spoken about Xabi Alonso. We did a podcast on it last week, and just interested from your perspective and what you're hearing, who else is being sort of thrown in the net as prospective names really for Jurgen Klopp's successor?
There's no doubt that Xabi Alonso will be high in Liverpool's thinking. That's clear and has been well reported. It wouldn't surprise you if there's been some sort of back-channel communication, as is the way with all of these situations. But they won't want to do anything formal to disrupt him, as he's going for his own history at Bayer Leverkusen. I do think it's worth tempering a bit of the excitement, because we speak to multiple people who suggest this isn't a foregone conclusion. The plan was always for him to stay one more year at Bayer Leverkusen. We don't know that he's going to rip that up to leave for Liverpool or even for Bayern Munich. And that brings us on to Bayern, who clearly have him high in their thinking too, and are going to go extremely strongly for him by the looks of it. They usually get what they want, not always. Even Tottenham beat them in the race for Dragusin last summer. And then there's this lingering question about Real Madrid and whether he may hold out for them, whether it be this summer, unlikely because Carlo Ancelotti signed a new contract, but that's only worth the paper it's written on, or the year after if Carlo Ancelotti was to move on. So he's in a really strong position, Xabi Alonso. On Saturday evening, Sam Wallace of The Telegraph revealed in his understanding that there are some backup options, including Ruben Amorim of Sporting Lisbon, doing a really good job there. I think he's only in his late 30s, so he's young himself and obviously has no managerial experience on these shores. And also Julian Nagelsmann was mentioned within that report. Now, I think they both perform very well on the data, and that's why they'll be in Liverpool's thinking as potential candidates. But there will be issues around both of them and many other possibilities, by the way. Ruben Amorim's got a release clause in his contract. It was, I think, a year ago when Chelsea spoke to him, up in the 20 millions of euros. Now I understand that it's 10 million euros, which people might feel is low, especially if it was a player signing. But that is high for a managerial appointment, whether we like it or not. And that's a potential issue in this. Julian Nagelsmann is managing Germany until the end of the Euros, which also isn't ideal because that's even later in terms of Xabi Alonso and Ruben Amorim. Also concerns, not just how it went at Bayern Munich and some of the reporting around him, but Liverpool have played his sides before and they've done away with him quite easily. And so maybe there's some technical concerns as well, taking nothing away from, how well he's regarded in the industry. And there will be more. We've seen Thomas Frank has been one of the names that's been mentioned on multiple occasions as somebody else that is impressing many of the top clubs. Ange Postecoglou was one that was mentioned at the beginning, but I'm not aware of anything on that front. So Liverpool are embarking upon this process, and they will be doing this groundwork, which is why some of this is coming out. It will be largely data-led, and that's when Will Spearman, Liverpool's head of research, comes into the conversation. And it will be meticulous and diligent, and they'll know the ramifications of this. They've got to get it right. But on that note, we've got to wind back and talk about the sporting director, because that's likely to be the first appointment. I hear that they would like a direction of travel pretty soon, maybe even early March. Whether that's an appointment or just they know where they're going. And, you know, we've reported on Michael Edwards having been approached by FSG, Mike Gordon, on a phone call in which he politely declined the opportunity to return to Liverpool or take an even bigger role within FSG. But has John Henry, as principal owner, finished scratching that itch? Could he still go for Michael Edwards? I don't know. I suspect they've got to either make a quick decision, or Michael Edwards would have to make a quick decision, or Liverpool, FSG move on. And there have been multiple names in the frame. Simon Hughes on The Athletic reported a couple of them. Ricky Massara, formerly at AC Milan, and a really impressive young option at OGC Nice, who seemingly hasn't been linked with roles at Manchester United on behalf of Ineos. And there are loads of others too, because this sporting director world seems to be getting bigger and bigger. And I think what Liverpool will want to be doing now is doing some groundwork on the manager, so that as and when they appoint this sporting director, they've got options to put in front of him. It's almost like he's able to hit the ground running. But everything I hear is that the sporting director will lead the managerial process from Liverpool, not something that is steered out of Boston, despite the fact that we know that Theo Epstein is coming back into FSG, very influential on the Red Sox and plenty more besides, to kind of advise on the Liverpool process. So of course Boston will be influential in the appointments, but then it's going to be taken on the ground here. And this is a decision that, you know, is going to have years and maybe generations of ramifications, so we can't underestimate it.
Yeah, for sure. James, final word on this then. Whoever does come in, and whatever that structure looks like, you'd like to think an enticing part of the future of Liverpool is where we started, the youth, the young players that are coming through, and an infrastructure that looks to be set in place for someone to take over. When that success comes is a whole different conversation, but that's got to be attractive for any potential new manager.
Yeah, I believe so. And I think that's why, you know, I think if you're Xabi Alonso, who for me is still by far and away the outstanding candidate to take over in terms of ticking all the boxes. And personally, I would be surprised if he picked Bayern Munich ahead of Liverpool. And I think, you know, just from a purely like common sense perspective, in terms of if he does go on and win the Bundesliga with Leverkusen, you know, with you know, I think he's got a superior team to Bayern. You go to Bayern, you know, you're almost expected to win. Where's the real, you know, you got the pressure and the expectation, but without also having to embark on a bit of an overhaul there. So I think, as much as it must be in the back of his mind and anyone else's, that do I really want to be the guy to follow in the footsteps of Jurgen Klopp? Would I not be better off being the guy after the guy? But then you must look at it, and it's not a normal situation. It's not a kind of post Ferguson situation at United where it's an aging team that requires a lot of surgery. You know, that most of that surgery has already been done. You know, you think in the last few years, you know, they rebuilt the front line completely. You know, last summer they rebuilt the midfield, and then you've had this, you know, this remarkable kind of tidal wave almost of young talent repeatedly stepping up and grasping the opportunities that have come their way this season. So I think that does make it a really, really attractive proposition, because and I think that's partly why Klopp decided that now was a good time to go, because he said, you know, he hated the idea of handing the club on to someone else, where it was like, well, you know, kind of good luck with that, mate. You know, it was, he wanted to be able to go thinking, yeah, the foundations are here for the success to keep on rolling. And certainly when you see, you know, what was, you know, almost really a Liverpool team that you'd almost expect to see in the third round of the FA Cup, not in a major final at Wembley, winning like that. You know, I think that has to just, you know, especially when you see the scenes after, You think, who would not want to be taking that? Who would not want that array of talent at their disposal going forward into this summer?
Yeah, well, that sounds like a good advert if ever I heard it. James, David, thank you so much for your time. And also, you can hear more from James and our dedicated Liverpool podcast, Walk On, in the aftermath of Sunday's Wembley win, with an episode also dropping tomorrow as in at Tuesday. So make sure you enjoyed that. And also, don't forget to rate and review this podcast, I should say. Thanks so much for listening. We're back tomorrow. If you like this video, click subscribe for more content like this. We'll be joined by the likes of David Ornstein, Matt Slater, Adam Crafton, Carl Anker, and plenty more through the season to bring you the inside track to the biggest stories in football. If you'd like to listen to the full episodes for free, search the Athletic Football Podcast wherever you get your podcasts from.
Now, Manchester United's hopes of qualifying for next season's Champions League were dealt a major blow after they were beaten at home by Fulham. Stephen, is it fair to say that there's different ways of losing a game? Sometimes you can lose a game, you go, OK. Yeah. But this one wasn't a snatch and grab by Fulham, was it? So does that make it worse? United outplayed at times here. So how damaging for the confidence will that be?
Yeah, it will be. This isn't the first time that Manchester United have been outplayed at home, though, by a so-called lesser club, a smaller club. I look back at the Bournemouth performance when they dominated Manchester United. They were probably not as lucky, but Luton played well there. But this game, Fulham dominated, created plenty of opportunities to win the game by a bigger score. Probably, again, weren't as clinical as you'd have hoped to be away from home, especially given all the chances. But yeah, Manchester United just afforded far too many opportunities to them and deservedly lost the game. I think there's been too many games this year where United have not played well but have come away with a result. The other game was obviously Wolves as well at the start of the season, where Wolves dominated the game as well and played exceptionally well and created a lot of opportunities, and they got away with one that night with the VAR decision against them. But yeah, United fans can't be happy with this at the moment. I know there's been a few cracks papered over in recent weeks, but the performances haven't been great.
No, perhaps cracks papered over.
Easy for you to say?
Yeah. I had to stop and restart. A lot has been made of the fact that no Rasmus Højlund ruled out of the game through injury. Marcus Rashford started up front. Is that a huge worry that if that was the reason, that Manchester United were reliant on quite a young centre forward to carry them through times of trouble?
Yeah, well, I think not only are you missing a forward that's in form at the moment, he's scoring goals, he's playing well, but I think it was the disruption to that front line that have been working and have been really fluid. Obviously, Rashford went centrally, so it's taken him out of his position. Garnacho went back to the left, whereas we've said he's looked really effective on that right-hand side, and then a young man in Forson coming in on that right-hand side. So I think the disruption didn't help. I think not having Martinez and Shaw, I think that's an issue for Manchester United, not only defensively, but the way that they build up from the back. So I think that the injuries have certainly played a part in that, but I totally agree with Stephen that we've watched Manchester United in terms of getting results and picking results up recently, but the performances still haven't been completely convincing. They might have played well for 10, 15 minutes, or we've seen an individual bit of quality, or we've seen the front three do something, but consistently through the 90 minutes we've not really seen a fully convincing performance from Manchester United.
Yeah, you mentioned Amari Forson there, a 19-year-old preferred to the £86 million Anthony. What does that tell you?
Well, it's quite interesting as well after the game that Erik ten Hag comes out and says he doesn't have the players available to him that he wants, and you go, well, hang about, you bought a player for that amount of money, but now you're trusting an academy graduate in front of him. I think it speaks volumes to where United are at the moment, and what's going on in the training ground, what he's seeing to give a youngster a chance in front of a huge signing. Anthony's career's not been fantastic since he joined Manchester United. For that price, the big thing I will say is he can't help that price tag. United paid it, whether they should or shouldn't have. They paid it in the end. There's big pressure on him to perform. He hasn't performed. He hasn't been good enough for the football club. So does he deserve to start? No, I don't think he does. I think it comes to a point where a manager's got to make a decision and go, you've not been good enough, you don't deserve to start.
So you were sat just about there. Well, Paul Merson was sitting just about here, and he was.
He's furious.
I hate it when he sits on the fence, Paul. But he was quite outspoken on what he thought of the performance and maybe their chances of sort of even Champions League next season. And yet I hear Erik ten Hag saying he can see the progress that's being made. So where lies the truth?
I think Paul Merson sat there and watched the whole 90 minutes and he just said that they didn't look good enough, and that's what we've pretty much said in terms of they started to pick up those results, and you thought, well, you can gain momentum, you can gain confidence, you can gain those, I suppose, relationships, and you can continually get better. Will they then start putting pressure on to get into those Champions League spots? But like I say, the performances still haven't been there. If you were seeing them, but not so much the results, and then when you take out 3 or 4 key players that help the way that you play, it's always going to be pretty different. But I think it goes back to, doesn't it, making sure that the off-the-field stuff is right and is put in place because of, like we mentioned, Anthony, you know, you've got to get in the right sort of players. It just shows the recruitment has been poor for a long period of time. So you get the right player, you get the right people in the right positions off the field, it's clearly then going to have an impact on the field.
But here's the conundrum, which hopefully between the two of you can solve for me, because you mentioned £86 million, Anthony. We've got profit and sustainability rules. We've got Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the new co-owner, talking about knocking City and Liverpool off their perch, and Manchester United being a force for the title here. Problem is, how many of those players at United can you sell? Because you'd have to sell them in order to bring... You can't just write a blank cheque here and rebuild United. No. So how many years is this going to take? Because I'm looking at the likes of Anthony and thinking, you're not going to get a return on your 86 million there. So that's going to go down as loss in your profit and sustainability columns, isn't it? So how do you get yourself out of this with all the good intentions that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got? I mean, this is maybe why Chelsea have gone down this sort of line of 8-year contracts for young kids, hoping that eventually it will pay off.
Yeah, I think that is what you're looking at with Chelsea. But going back to Anthony, I think you do well to recoup half of what you pay for him. I think the big thing is that it sounds terrible, this, but you're almost hoping that the Saudi League again goes, well, come on, take a few of these off your hands. I mean, Chelsea were lucky last year that the Saudi League spent a lot of money on Chelsea's players who were deemed surplus to requirements, and that helped balance the books. Will that happen again this year? I'm not so sure it will, because you'd look at a lot of the United players and think they're not good enough. You are going to have to take a hit on them. I think it'll be one of those situations for United where they'll look at it and go, commercially, they're very strong. They're going to have to make big money commercially off the field to try and balance the books a little bit better of what they do. I know he's talking about the new stadium, potentially trying to build a new stadium, making it bigger. It's big talk to come in and say you're going to knock them off the perch, especially the positions that both football clubs are in and where they are. And I put Arsenal in that mix as well. I think the three of them are streets ahead of a lot of the teams in where they are. You've got to do clever business. I mean, even yesterday, and I don't want to really go back to it too much, but you look at even Chelsea against Liverpool and you go, Caicedo and Endo have cost 226 million. And then you, Enzo Fernandez, and then you go, Endo and McAllister cost Liverpool a combined 56 million. Well, there's your business, there's your clever model. Yeah. There's where you have to be clever behind the scenes and creative as to who you buy and what you buy and try and pick up deals. And that's where Manchester United might have to be for the next 2-3 years before they start spending the 80-90 millions again.
I think it's going to be a hard day's night for Sir Jim and Sir Dave at Old Trafford trying to work that one out.
I'm just going to come out with something Jurgen Klopp says. Jurgen Klopp says that of all the trophies he's won with Liverpool, and he's won some important ones, like their first league title in a million years, and of course the Champions League, this was the sweetest. Can you understand that? Or is it just some big Scouse red love fest?
No, I think I can understand it, of course. I think part of him is maybe trolling slightly Chelsea and Marcel Pochettino, but we'll come to that later. When you win with your D team, really, because the extra time team is your D team. It's not your A team, not your B team, not your C team, it's your D team.
It's a bit mean to Van Dijk and Luis Diaz.
Okay, that's the only two. It's 2 out of 11. The rest are kids from the academy who some of them never played with the first team or hardly. This is their D team. And for them to still manage to win it, not even in penalties, it's just incredible. So I can understand why he feels sweet, because there will be a point, and I was at the game, there was a point when you felt there's no way Liverpool can win this final. It's impossible. Chelsea were too good towards the end of the 90 minutes. They were too strong. They had the better players. They had the most momentum. They had the better chances. They had everything. And you were sat there and thinking, they just cannot lose this final. This is not possible. And somehow they managed to lose it.
You mentioned the Chelsea chances. I mean, personally, I thought over the course of the game, Liverpool had the better chances. But in a game like this, when it's so tight, it can be one thing or another, right? It can be the Raheem Sterling goal that was disallowed. You know, we're talking millimeters. That's not a defensive plan. We're talking hitting the woodwork. So those chances were there. At minute 90, just in terms of who you thought, the momentum was clearly with Chelsea at that point,
massively.
because Liverpool had to take everybody off. But did you feel like Chelsea deserved to win, or you just feel like there's the momentum and they're going to get it across the line in extra time?
So I thought Liverpool would have more of the ball, which they had in the 90 minutes. I did feel that Chelsea could hurt them even after this. So there's the Sterling chance, on the cross from Gallagher, and his first touch is poor, and then I think maybe Palmer should score, but that's pretty much all they had in the first half, with the disallowed goal that I think is just slightly offside. But the second half, I thought Chelsea really were in the game so well, and Liverpool clearly tired, and you could see they were tiring. Clearly they lose a lot of impact, even physically in midfield as well, McAllister. And you felt, okay, there's just can be only one winner. I just wish for Chelsea fans and Pochettino that the best chances didn't end with Gallagher. You know how much I don't rate Gallagher. I know he's a runner. I know he's an athlete, and he's more athletics than football. But if that ball had ended up with anybody else, he would have scored 2 goals.
The other ball in the first half ended up with Cole Palmer, and he couldn't finish either.
No, I know, but then...
okay. So if you could see that, the momentum had shifted, and there was no way Chelsea could lose, and they could just take the game to them and win it in extra time. Former Paris Saint-Germain coach, Mauricio Pochettino, did not see that. He said afterwards that, at that point, we were clearly tired. I'm paraphrasing here. And we thought maybe the best thing to do was play for penalties.
Yeah? Who's their front three at that time?
Madueke, Mudryk.
Yeah.
And
Nkunku. Tired? Are they tired? They've played for 3 seconds? Where is the time? How is the time? Okay, Chilwell and Gallagher, you take them off. Yeah, you put Chalobah right back. It's not ideal. Gusto at left back. But really, you have a front three of Mudryk, Madueke, and Nkunku, and you decide not to attack anymore? Why are you deciding not to attack anymore? He said we felt it was right to play for penalties. There's half an hour to play. This is not golden goal. It's whoever scores first doesn't win. You still have to play 15 minutes of extra time. And you felt like, let's not play. Let's just go to penalties. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I wondered. I mean, we're going to go back and have a go at him. I think a lot of it has to do with he also realized, hey, 2 of those 3 guys Jules just mentioned really aren't very good.
But it doesn't matter. Don't tell me they're tired.
No, I agree with you.
Tell me they're not good, but don't tell me they're tired.
I want to focus a little bit, and not just on Liverpool as well, because those kids to have the mind frame to go and keep playing. I wonder if it's one of those things where they don't realize where they are. They don't realize the context. So in some ways, they're more free. Maybe there's nothing, because they all contributed.
Yeah.
Because by that point in the game, obviously Virgil van Dijk, the hero, was the goal, but Luis Diaz had run himself into the ground.
Yeah,
I don't know how that guy could stand.
He could not walk anymore.
And so it really was a case of, spit and gravel getting you over the line, which I thought this is why. And
it was good to see, to be fair. Yeah. But again, they shouldn't have never won that final.
I have to say, I'm not a Liverpool fan, but very few teams do narratives the way Liverpool do.
get a bit of reaction to the news that 10 points has become 6 on appeal. John, good afternoon, John.
Hiya, boys. You all right?
Hello, John. Not so bad.
With you.
So how are you feeling about this?
Well, I'm in the Czech Republic, to be honest with you, and I'm listening to you on the TalkSport app. A little bit of a commercial for you.
Nice.
Well, yeah, I've got mixed feelings, really. I mean, obviously, I'm glad to get the 4 points, but we still have a bitter, sour taste in our mouths as regards not just Manchester City, as regards Chelsea as well. It's just that the rules seem to be constantly changing, and all we're asking for is a level playing field. Yeah. And Manchester City saying, "Oh well, yeah, we're going to drag this out for X amount of time," and that it just still seems to be a feeling of, I don't know. It's like in the FA Cup. I likened it to some teams have VAR. Yeah. And the lower teams don't have VAR.
The problem is, John, the charges that have been levelled at City and Chelsea are very different.
They're not just football-related charges, are they?
Profit and sustainability as such.
It's more about sponsorship, if it's overpriced from a sister company who owns the club, or where money's going to different players or managers.
The parameters of this are much easy to punish, Danny. That's my understanding. Is it yours?
Well, and I swerve this as much as I can.
Yes, yeah. It's this is the problem. John, thank you very much. Enjoy the Czech Republic. Have fun. There's John the Evertonian there. We'll hear from some more Evertonians this afternoon. I mean, I know it's a frustration that some team are getting charged and it's all being turned around quickly. But say the charges against Chelsea relate to Roman Abramovich's time there and are not as straightforward to judge on as that, because they're not PSR. And City says, 115 charges is labyrinthine.
And
it's
also,
not as matter
Everton admitted it, didn't they? They said, yes, we have overspent.
They did.
We were a little bit negligent. So that's why their case come to the fore a lot quicker. But then you'd like to think that normally if you admit something, then the punishment is less, isn't it?
And City are claiming they haven't done anything wrong and they're going to fight every charge. Let's crack on with the games. We'll come back to the Evertonians later on. It's down to 6 points. Everton's charges down from 10, of course. It was 10 originally, but 4 reduced on appeal, so they're now just 6 points deduction for this season so far. We will hear from another Evertonian before we continue. Steve joins us. Hello, Steve.
All right, lads. Surely Masters has got to go over this. Even the news that was broken by David Ornstein from the Athletic.
What, rather than the Premier League, you mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, sometimes journalists steal a march, they find out this stuff. And how often do you find out a manager's been sacked before the club put up that picture of the main stand with the corner flag in front?
That's not Richard Masters' fault. There's a mole in the camp, is there really?
Richard Masters has got to walk after this. And I'm 70. I've been a season ticket holder for 61 years at Everton. We've had this hanging over us now since November. Yeah. It's not what I wanted. Because personally, I don't think we should have had any points deducted. But I genuinely feel sorry for Luton and Nottingham Forest now.
Yeah, they've got that hanging over there. You make a good point, actually, Steve, because it was November. It's taken 3.5 months to get the appeal sorted.
The process needs to be speeded up.
And our understanding is that it could be as late as April that the charges come in for the other clubs that are under the cosh potentially in Forest and Luton and Everton. So if that is the case, and it's another 3 months to appeal, you're looking quite late into the summer, as Danny was saying.
So you won't know if you're going to be relegated.
Well, they're going to have to make the appeals process.
After the season's finished.
Well, they're going to have to make the appeals process a lot quicker.
Shorter.
Steve, thanks very much. There's Steve, the Evertonian. You touched on that, Danny. We don't want seasons delayed or decisions being made after a season's finished. You want all these teams to finish the season knowing where they're at. You don't want to be relegated 2 months later.
These are rules rather than the law of the land, but the law of the land has always worked on the principle that justice delayed is justice denied. And there's a reason for that, because people's lives, you get accused of something, if you don't get the thing sorted out in reasonable time, that is hanging over you. All right, these are football clubs and it's a different situation. It's not life and death particularly, but they're going to have to streamline. I'm all for enforcing the rules equally for everybody. Of course I am, but they've got to streamline this decision-making process. And let's be honest, the clubs have got to buy into that as well then, though, because that means you can't be making pointless appeals just because you want to delay the thing and all the rest of it.
No.
They've got to cooperate quickly in a proper manner. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess in the close season otherwise.
On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.
Just gone 10:30 this Monday morning. Simon's with me, so too is Martin and Neil. Martin, we're talking about Pochettino. Pre-match, what do you make of his comments pre-match? For me, pre-match on winning titles, is that how you should be judged? For me, that's not the way to judge a coaching staff. It's about being competitive and winning. But there are too many factors that influence. I think that victory, in the game yesterday, is not going to increase my popularity or the way the fans are going to see us. What do you think of that? Surely had Chelsea won, it would have changed the way the fans see him and Chelsea.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely does. Because it gives you respite. It gives you a trophy on the board. And people will automatically think differently of you. Of course, you feel as if now that's the first trophy, you're on your way. And if defeat is exactly the opposite. So whatever view the fans have of you as a manager, that definitely changes when you win.
But Ten Hag won it last year. Has it changed much for him?
Oh, but there's been a lot of things. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since then. You know, I think that Manchester United probably felt with that great surge towards the end of the season, the winning the League Cup, the position in the Champions League, that things were really on the up.
Yeah.
But if we're talking in the immediacy now, this is it. You know, this would have changed the opinion of a lot of Chelsea fans.
I think the unfairness of Manchester United is that you are challenged by a very different set of judgment calls, because you're not in the business. You're not supposed to be in the business at Man United of winning the League Cup. You're supposed to be in the business of winning the Premier League. So tragically, for anyone that steps into the dugout of Man United, you can't carry this huge spectre. It's a bit like Jacob Marley out of, Scrooge carrying all the ghosts and the souls of the past. He's got all these championships at Ferguson and this legacy of Manchester United. So it's a good question, because there is still the doubting Thomases, me being one, about the end game for Ten Hag. What he did was he quietened it down for 5 minutes by being able to point to trophies. But with Manchester United, it's a different standard. He will himself be talking about this. But what Pochettino's doing there is almost straight out of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer playbook. I mean, it's about being competitive. I mean, it's about winning. It's not about being competitive. You have to be competitive in everything in life.
And do you think he really knows that, but isn't saying it?
Well, I think, of course, he probably does. But it's. I mean, again, you have to give the benefit of the doubt to the language and the translation. It's not being his first language. But he talks about Klopp. He talks about Klopp arriving at Liverpool as if he's not arrived at the right football club, if he's not been given the right tools. And I think it's weak. But I think this is probably the reasons why Pochettino is all fur coat and no knickers. He is a very good coach and will achieve you very good things, but he will not win you things. The only thing he's won is the French League, which was won previously by Lille.
Wow, that's strong though. That is strong, Simon. Is it fair, Martin? Is that fair? I know you're taking a sip of your coffee. I was going to go to the calls, but is it fair?
Well, you have to get back to winning. This is it, Jim. You're at a football club that is expecting to win, and I take Simon's point about Manchester United, that they're not really wildly interested in winning a League Cup. You are to begin with, and if that starts your career as a manager at that club, your tenure at the club, well, it's a really great start. And this would be terrific if Chelsea had been able to have won this trophy, because it does change a mindset, change the mindset of players as well too.
Yeah, should Pochettino have been more on the front foot yesterday, both post and pre-match? You can give us your views on that. 03717 223344. I was working for the EFL yesterday, but I was still wearing my TalkSport hat, and I was very, very fortunate to be mixing with some of the great and the good in the game at the end of the match. Martin, I think you'll enjoy this. So will you, Simon. I mean, when you look at it, some of the kids on show yesterday excelled for Liverpool. Gallagher, as you rightly say, Martin, was one of them in goal. Harvey Elliott, Conor Bradley, and then we saw a bit of Bobby Clark, Lewis Kumas, Jayden Danns, Trey Noni. And that was not lost on some of the great players from the past. First, Ian Rush, and next you'll hear from John Barnes. But first, Rush.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. When you see what the Chelsea players are there, paid so much for them, and you look at 5 or 6 youngsters in that Liverpool team, it was something special today, I think.
Is that the first of 4? or am I asking you too much?
Well, maybe asking a bit too much, but at the end of the day, once you win once, confidence gets stronger and stronger. And when you look at the team that plays today, our main players were not playing today. So it just goes to show how good Jurgen is now, what he's doing with these youngsters. And they're coming on and they look just like normal top players.
I mean, towards the end, it could have gone either way, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think in the more than 90 minutes, Chelsea had the better chances, to tell you the truth. But at the end of the day, we kept playing on. And look at that support there. The support there was absolutely amazing. I just feel like them youngsters now, how they must be feeling now is something really, really special. It just goes to show how special Liverpool Football Club is.
Do you old fellas like Russian Dalglish, do you enjoy it?
Oh, we love it, yeah, that's what it's all about. You can't buy it, and that's what it's all about. It's something really special. What Jurgen Klopp has done is absolutely amazing. He's like, you talk about Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, Kenny Dalglish. Jurgen's right up there with them as well.
John Barnes, Liverpool legend, what did you make of that today?
Incredible. The thing about Liverpool is that, of course, with the amount of players we had missing, and we thought of the substitutions we made and coming on, but all of them, this is what Liverpool have, with the spirit and the determination. There was a scrambling out goal mounts at times, and Chelsea looked at could have scored a couple of goals. But with the team that we had out there today, full credit to them, because of course, missing so many big players, Chelsea had probably their strongest team out. Rode our luck at times, but it was a fantastic performance, and that's the spirit that Jurgen has brought. No matter who plays, it could be a youth team, it could be a reserve team, it could be anybody, and they put in a proper spirited performance. It was sensational.
And you mentioned Jurgen. I mean, it's a tall order, John, but I mean, is that going to be the first of four?
Well, of course, there's a long way to go. What we do know is that they'll put in performances which would mean that coming the end of the season, I remember a couple of years ago when we could have won 4 and we ended up winning 2 and people may have been disappointed. But if we go all the way to the wire, to the last knockings of the season, and we're in contention to win all 4, I'll be happy if we don't. Probably a tall order to win 4, but 1 down, 3 to go.
And is it lovely seeing these kids come through today, John? Does it make you feel really optimistic about the future?
Absolutely. When Jurgen announced he was going, I mean, last year we looked at Liverpool and the age and the profile of the players, the Jordan Hendersons, the James Milners, the Fabinhos, the Firminos, who were, 30, 31, 32. And we wondered what the future would look like. The players that he's brought in, not just the kids come through, but looking at the young players in Gakpo and Disasi who've come through. So any manager coming into Liverpool now will come into a club full of players with humility, hunger, the right correct attitude. So a new manager's coming into a dream club, whoever it happens to be.
Whoever it happens to be, what a tall order he's got, John, following Klopp.
It is, because of course you wonder about, as we've seen in the past, when a new manager comes in, the reaction of the players to the new manager, having someone as iconic as Jurgen Klopp. But I know the character of these players, and they have the respect of the football club to give 100% to the new manager in the same way that they did to Jurgen.
Do you know who you'd like to see there?
I know who I would like to see, but I'm keeping it close to my chest.
And that was that. John Barnes knows who he would like to be in the Liverpool hot seat post-Klopp, but he's keeping it close to his chest. Have you got a notion, Martin, of who will be there?
No idea.
Who should they go for?
No idea.
To fit the profile post-Klopp?
Well, Jim, honestly, I'll plead the fifth in this one. I genuinely don't know. We discussed this earlier, about 15 minutes ago, talking about should they appoint from within. Simon made the point about the likes of Joe Figg and people like this here, Bob Paisley coming after Bill Shankly had set up something, so it was easy to follow. And you also had the nucleus of a fantastic side throughout the 70s as well too. So this is a different proposition. Somebody from outside would probably, I'm sure that Liverpool will look to a quality manager from outside.
I mean, Tom Werner came and went yesterday, Simon, thrilled with what he saw, particularly with the youngsters. Will he and John W. and the rest know now who they are going for, and know that they're not going to stop until they get that
Possibly.
person?
I mean, ultimately, you would think that succession programming and thinking has been of their mindset since November. They've known this since November. The availability of other managers, the nature of the beast. You're taking somebody out. This Liverpool team, or club team, is really shaped in the image of Jurgen Klopp. And he's managed to cross the Rubicon and make his relationship with the fans and represent the town of Liverpool. But the player, the playing style, the personality, the outlook, the disposition of the team is a direct reflection of the manager. It has charisma, it's feral, it's dynamic, it's energy It's got all of the things that I like to see in football. That's why I like Klopp as a manager. Now, you're going to find great difficulty in replicating that because there is only one Jurgen Klopp, not because I'm eulogising and putting him up on a pedestal, but there is only one. And his style is his style. So there's going to be a change. I think the strength of Liverpool is they've bought good players. They've got a good motivation inside the team. They've got a good outlook. You're seeing that by the young players come in, and we're all waxing lyrical about them. Whoever they get, it's a big appointment, because this is this moment in time where, like I used the example of the slip. They can't afford to slip now. They slipped when Steven Gerrard slipped on the pitch in 2014 and the league was lost. If they slip after Klopp, they can lose all of the platform they've built. I don't think they will. I think they'll make a sensible decision, whether that's Xavi Alonso. I don't think it'll be people like Thomas Tuchel. I think it'll be someone that galvanises the club. Thomas Tuchel's record will give you some respect, but he doesn't galvanise football clubs. He divides them. He creates division. You've seen it at PSG. You've seen it at Chelsea. You're now seeing it at Bayern Munich. So Liverpool are not looking for that. They're looking for someone to unite and not to divide, and to build upon the platform, because I imagine Klopp will be wanting to see the team and the club that he rebuilt from the sort of the effect that Brendan Rodgers had in his last season, which was taking the club downwards after that good season in 13-14. And all that work will go to, and I don't think they'll make that mistake. There's too much money involved, too much thought process involved, and they've had time to think about it. And the only person that we will find out who is the right person is if Liverpool have done their job and their diligence to make sure that what they're bringing in matches what they've got.
Okay, well, how many more trophies will he land before he departs? Is the Magic 4 seriously on? You can give us a call on that, 03717 223344. And where does this, for you, if you're a Liverpool fan, where does this rank yesterday? When you saw the youngsters making you super proud on the pitch at Wembley, where does that rank if you followed Liverpool for years? 03717 223344. And Chelsea, don't quite know what to put to you this morning. Did Chelsea choke, or are there green shoots for the owners to point to this morning? Will it get better? Is it bound to get better? Or did they choke yesterday, as is being suggested in some quarters? 03717 223344.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.
Breaking news in the last hour. Everton's 10-point deduction for breaching the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules is reduced to 6 points. Hi there, welcome to Sky Sports News. As Everton succeed in having their punishment reduced 3 months on from the original decision. Stand by for reaction from Luton boss Rob Edwards. Well, this is what it's done for the Premier League table then, with Everton moving up from 17th to 15th. They go above Brentford on goal difference. It means Sean Dyche's side are 5 points clear of the relegation zone, and with a much more superior goal difference to Luton, who are down in 18th place now. Now, Everton reacted to the decision, saying they feel vindicated for appealing against the original 10-point deduction. In a statement, this is what they had to say. Everton can confirm an appeal board has concluded that the points deduction imposed by an independent Premier League commission in November be reduced from 10 points to 6 points with immediate effect. The club is also particularly pleased with the appeal board's decision to overturn the original commission's finding that the club failed to act in utmost good faith. That decision, along with reducing the points deduction, was an incredibly important point of principle for the club on appeal. The club therefore feels vindicated in pursuing its appeal. Well, as for the Premier League, they say they're satisfied with today's decision and that the independent disciplinary process clearly set out in its rules and agreed by all clubs has been followed throughout. The written reasons for the decision from the Independent Appeals Board have been published too. They are 61 pages long. This is a key paragraph coming in the Appeal Board summary. They say this: in all the circumstances, including relevant mitigating and aggravating factors, the Appeal Board considers that a 6-point immediate points deduction is appropriate and proportionate in that it is a sanction both necessary and sufficient to achieve the aims of the profitability and sustainability rules. Now, Carve Solokor joins me now, our chief reporter. You've had a little bit more time to go through a lot of it now, but take us through, first of all, how this decision was actually reached.
Well, initially, Everton were found guilty of breaking Premier League's financial spending rules. Basically, they spent £19.5 million more than they should have over a rolling 3-year period. Now, to most people, £19.5 million in Premier League terms is not a lot of money. But because of that, they were hit with this 10-point deduction back in November. They decided to appeal. It was their right to appeal. The appeal was heard by a new 3-person panel. And the decision that they've come to is that the original punishment of 10 points was too much, and a fair punishment is 6 points. And they say that is in line with the EFL's punishments for breaking spending rules as well. And Everton say, we are pleased, we're satisfied that this has happened, especially because, for instance, if you become insolvent, you only get hit with a 9-point deduction. So why should you get 10 points for just breaking these financial rules by £19.5 million? I think the bigger picture is this is a small victory for Everton. If I was an Everton supporter this afternoon, I would be saying, this is quite good news, but nothing to celebrate about.
Okay.
I would have been getting the champagne out if the appeal panel had said, no, there shouldn't be a points deduction at all. It should just be a fine of 20, 30, 40, 50 million pounds. And that would have been very important as well, because it would have set a precedent. It would have set the benchmark for the second charge that Everton are facing. Then I would be popping the champagne, because I would be saying, on the first charge, we just got a fine, which means that in the second charge, we're just going to get a fine as well. So the league table is going to reflect what happens on the pitch, and not what happens when accountants are drawing up their spreadsheets and what a 3-person panel or an appeal panel decides.
All right, so like I say, you've had a good look through it. What are your takeaways from it? Because I know what I've kind of seen in front of me, and perhaps what some of the Everton fans are seeing. What are you seeing from it?
Well, look, I think from Everton's point of view, they say that they are satisfied. They say that it is very important to them that this appeal has overturned the finding of the initial commission, that they didn't act in good faith. I think that is important to them. And they say that they're fully committed to cooperating with this new independent panel that is going to be set up to hear the second charge. I think for the Premier League, their statement is very businesslike, sticks to the facts as you would accept. They say that Everton appealed the sanction imposed on them on 9 grounds. And they say that 2 of those 9 grounds were upheld by the appeal board. I think the Premier League want to make it clear that Everton were just appealing against the punishment, not the finding. They admit that they broke the spending rules. I think it's interesting as well that the appeal board has decided the main reasons that Everton did break the spending rules were because they didn't manage their finances as prudently as they should have done. They say that there were limited mitigating factors. For instance, that Everton have been, they've realised for a long time that they were spending too much, that they could be in danger of breaking these financial rules. So they have been reining in their spending. If you look at how much they've been spending or how little they've been spending in the transfer market, that is very clear. And I think the appeal board recognises that losses have reduced year on year. However, there were aggravating factors, including the extent of the overspend and also the club providing incorrect information re-new stadium costs. I think as well, the big picture as well is, if you speak to people who run Premier League football clubs or any football club, it is very, very difficult to know exactly how much money you're going to be spending and how much money is going to be coming in. It is hugely, there's so many variables.
Which is why they do it over a 3-year period, I guess.
They do it over a rolling 3-year period. But why has this limit not been increased? Why has it been £105 million that you're allowed to lose over a 3-year period for something like going back 10 years now? Surely inflation should be taken into
feeling
account.
the pinch at the moment.
Exactly.
So,
if the limit had risen in line with inflation, I think it would be something like £200 million. And Everton and Forest would be in the clear. They wouldn't have broken the rules at all.
Look, interestingly, we know that they're up for a second charge as well. So too are Nottingham Forest. So they're going to be listening to this all the time and wondering what's coming their way. My question here is, which I don't know whether we can even answer, is will they get a 6-point deduction and that's it? Could there be an appeal process for that? Because they've set a precedent now.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the benchmark now for breaking these rules is a 6-point deduction. Everton are saying that they're satisfied. The Premier League is saying they're satisfied. So the only concern I would have now is if I was a Forest fan or an Everton fan is this is the benchmark, this is the precedent. We've got a second charge and we are probably going to get the same punishment again. Now, if we do get that punishment, we've got the right to appeal as well.
But what's the point? Because you said you're happy with the 6 point.
It could be different amounts that they've lost. There could be different mitigating factors. So they would probably want to go to an appeal. They would definitely want to go to an appeal board as well. But that is just the worry that I would have, which is why I started off by saying this is a very small victory.
Okay.
Yes, to the outside world, it looks good that a 10-point deduction is now a 6-point deduction. But I think for Everton fans, nothing to celebrate, really. They will still feel that they shouldn't be getting a points deduction at all. They should be getting a financial fine, as has happened to other clubs. For instance, I think Queen's Park Rangers spent too much money when they were in the Premier League. They were hit with a £40-50 million fine, and they are still paying the price of that because that fine is being paid over 10 years, I think. And you see the state that Queen's Park Rangers are in and their finances are in. You just think maybe that is a more proportionate way of dealing with these issues.
Make a good point, as always. Thank you, Carve. So, as Carve was saying, potentially good news for Everton, but bad news for the teams around them in this fight for survival, especially Luton, who occupy the last relegation place as things stand at the moment. However, Luton boss Rob Edwards claims it doesn't change anything for his side.
We've been going off the league table with no deductions anyway, so it makes no real difference. We were in the bottom 3 before it, we are now. Albeit now it looks like we're behind Forest, 4 points behind with the game in hand, so the situation is the same really from our point of view. We've been, as I say, we've been dealing with it without deductions because we can't put that, we can't, that can't be the thing that keeps us in the league. We've got to try and make it in our own hands. That's what we've got to try and do. So, it's, in a way it's good there's a bit of clarity.
I know the situation, you're trying to see it as the Premier League table without any deductions, but it does make things a little bit harder. Of course, there are still fresh charges against Everton and Nottingham Forest, which could change things once again.
It's going to be hard anyway, isn't it? We're in a difficult league. It's been tough from day one. There's more charges. That's completely out of our hands and out of our control. What's in our control is our performances, how hard we work. And I wish we could control results, but we can't. So it is important what other people do, but if we don't do our job, it doesn't matter at all anyway. So we knew this was going to be a really difficult task, and that's always been the case, and it's not going to change.
Reminder then of how the Premier League table now looks, with Everton moving 5 points clear of Luton, who are in 18th, with a much superior goal difference as well for Everton. We heard Rob Edwards there insisting he's not looking at deductions. Here's more from the Luton boss.
Conference was dropped. You said that. No, we were in the bottom 3 before it anyway. We're just 4 points behind Forest with a game in hand. We're in the mix, like I said. We've spoken openly with the boys on a number of occasions, said we're not looking at the points deductions. We're in the bottom 3 anyway. This is when we were out of the bottom 3 at one stage. So it's not changed, and our task hasn't changed. So I don't see us having to pick anyone up at all. Not for us, maybe it is for them. I suppose that's been very difficult for them, but Sean Dyche seems to have handled it very, very well. And, But it's a unique situation, isn't it? Not something that any of us really have dealt with before. But again, it's out of our control. All I really care about is Luton Town, and we've got to make sure we get enough points to stay in the league, whatever that will be. We don't know, and I don't want to have to rely on other things, external factors again that are out of our control.
It to be made clear that now any financial penalties would be 6 points. Obviously, 9 points is administration, so it can't be as many as that. Otherwise, clubs would just opt for that. So, would you like the Premier League to come out and say, right, this is what the penalty would be moving forward? And do you anticipate Everton and Forest getting 6 more points because they've been investigated?
I won't comment on what could happen or in the future, but I suppose clarity on the number of points, because if the rules are there, then I suppose they need to be adhered to, but then there needs to be a clarity on what the penalty is for that, and that would help everyone. And as for going forward, again, that's stuff that's out of our control, and it's really nothing to do with me at the moment.
It's only human nature your players thought that, right?
Thought what?
That maybe they'll get even more points taken off.
Maybe, yeah, it's human nature, but again, we can't control that, and we can't, we can't sort of bank on that or use it. So that's completely out of our control. What is how, like I said, how hard we work, commitment to what we're trying to do, and try and perform as well as possible. These are the difficult questions because it's obviously very new, this sort of thing, and I've certainly not experienced it before. But again, it's hypothetical at the moment because these ones have not happened yet, or if they do, if they don't, we don't know. We've got to concentrate on ourselves.
Arsenal beat up Newcastle 4-1. Jules, I told you, against certain opponents, this team works a lot better with the big man up front and Georgie pulling the strings.
That's very true.
And Mikel Arteta agrees with me.
And I thought of you, and I thought Georgie was amazing, really, in a game that was perfect.
And Havertz was good too.
Havertz was good too. It was really good even. Maybe the best game that he's had, even if he missed that chance again. But with him, I think we can accept that he would score 1 and maybe miss 2.
Or so does Erling Haaland these
That's
days.
the ratio, exactly. So don't just Kai. I think incredible in terms of intensity, in terms of everything from Arsenal point of view in that game. Manchester City win away to Bournemouth 1-0 as Phil Foden scores the only goal, and Erling Haaland is getting stick for missing more chances.
He did miss more chances.
Again.
He also has, was it 22 goals this season, something like that? He's almost guaranteed to get to 30 goals this year. City are on this incredible, I think they've won 13 of 14 with, and then plus the other one was the draw with Chelsea. They're top of the table, they're running. I wouldn't worry about this. I really would not be concerned
and he's
about
back from
this
injury as
in
well.
any way.
So,
and he's back from injury, and also when he doesn't score, he does a lot of good things. It's 3 goals in 7 since he comes back. It's not like it's
true.
1 in 20. So yeah, lay off the big man. Alex Iwobi scores the winner in the 7th minute of injury time as Manchester United lose 2-1 at home to Fulham. Jules, not the best way to celebrate Jim Ratcliffe's coming out party.
No, there's a few things that I want to say on this, Gabby. The first one is this was the birthday of Anthony on Saturday. He was turned 24th.
So is that why he got to come on for 55 seconds?
55 seconds, 1 touch. And it's not just so that, it's just that before coming on, in his position as a right winger, Ten Hag plays young Forson, who'd never started with United before.
And then takes him off after 7 minutes in the second half to put on Eriksen.
To put Eriksen on, and then Garnacho moves to the right-hand side, still no Anthony. Then Bruno Fernandez moves to the right-hand side, still no Anthony. Then Amad Diallo comes on, still no Anthony. And then when Anthony comes on for 55 seconds, it's on the other side. I mean, I think there's no way back from that. The thing that bothered me the most of that is that after the game, Ten Hag said we deserve to win, we were the better team. And we've said that before on the show about Ten Hag. Ten Hag needs to stop to be in denial about things because this is not telling the truth. They were not the bad team. They didn't deserve to win. They were lucky to get that Maguire goal after the big
Can we show some
blunder.
love for Maguire, by the way?
What, for diving in on Adama Traore on the second goal?
No, no. On the goal, he keeps the ball in. Come on, there's no way you assumed when he puts in that cross. Come on, when you were watching it, you said, I am sure he's going to fall over the ball and the ball's going to go out for a goal kick, right? Instead, he keeps the ball in, he delivers a good cross. And from that, they eventually score.
From that, Leno gifts him a goal by...
Yeah,
and, I mean, my nan would have stopped that shot.
But if he hadn't kept the ball in play, that would have never
Right,
happened.
okay. Why is he diving in on Adama Traore?
Well, stop picking
I know he's on a yellow
wire.
card. Don't dive in. He goes in. First, he loses the ball. Then he dives in. Then after that, it's too late because he's got a caravan behind him, the trailer, and then Adama is Adama. I don't know. For me, United at 1-1, Ten Hag should have to do the players. Hey, we're very lucky to be in this position. Let's keep the draw. Let's sit deep for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and then that's it. Instead, they went all over the place. They tried to attack to win. I mean, come on.
And by the way, I've heard people talk about, all the people who were missing for Manchester United. Let's count them. The ones who matter. Højlund, Lisandro, Luke Shaw. Who was missing
And
for
then you
Fulham?
lose Casemiro as well. You lose Casemiro through injury.
Okay, it's fine. But who was missing for Fulham? Palhinha, who I think is arguably more important to Fulham than any Manchester United player is to Manchester United. Willian and Raul Jimenez. Worst players. But then Fulham's a worse team.
Yeah, exactly.
Aston Villa aren't going away, Jules. They beat Nottingham Forest 4-2. And while 5th place Tottenham Hotspur do have a game in hand, they're also 5 points back. Show Emery some love, please, because you know I'm not going to do it.
But we also said that it was a slow start of 2024 and they were not good at the start of the year. And now it looks like, certainly that game, that fitness-wise, they were back at their best in terms of the intensity and the way they pressed Nottingham Forest. Scoring early helps you, of course. And even if you conceded 2 goals, which is at home for them quite unusual, let's say, they could have scored more than 4. I mean, Bailey was outstanding. Watkins was great. Douglas Luiz, again.
2 goals.
2 goals. Beautiful too. So, well done to them. I really hope I really hope for Aston Villa that they stay in the top 4 because I think it would be really cruel on them if they were to kind of fall out in the last 5 games of the season or something because the work that they've put on, they deserve to finish top 4, top 5 if England gets the 5th place in the Champions League as well.
Simon, just to carry on the theme of the Carabao Cup, the League Cup, 64 League Cup finals, but will we reach 70? Is this competition, Simon, in better health than ever, or is it living on borrowed time? The reason I ask is that it's currently a bargaining chip being used in conversations between the Premier League and the EFL. I know you're turning your nose up to this, over the new deal for football. It's in the conversations, isn't it?
Is it really?
I'm sure it is.
So we're going to trade with you the League Cup for 400 million quid a year. That's not really it. It may be part of a discussion, but it's not really a bargaining chip. The League Cup...
Well, back in 2020, as part of Project Big Picture, the League Cup was due to be abolished. So that was Rick Parry's plan. There's been talk about it.
Project Big Picture became Project Closed Window instantaneously. It never got off the ground, never got anywhere. Right? It wasn't a big picture. It was a tiny little abstract painting in the background. The bottom line is that there is this narrative running through European football that the second cup in the country needs to be removed.
Yeah.
And it's been done in lots of other countries.
As it has been throughout Europe.
Yeah. I would suggest that it doesn't quite have the legacy and history of this cup. This cup was created in the 60s as a fallback cup for major sides that got knocked out of the FA Cup and as an alternate revenue stream. It's become a very meaningful tournament, a far more meaningful tournament in recent years because you've seen the big 6 clubs taking it very seriously and wanting to win it. It's always been a valuable tournament. It's always been something I've had a great deal of affection for. It should be protected. It should be enshrined. It should be valued. If there's trade-offs that need to be done in order to get certain solutions into other aspects of football, then fine. But if you look at the attendances, you look at the performance, you look at the value of the actual collateral that this cup represents, it will always be second to the FA Cup. It'll always be second to the Premier League. But it's a very valuable cup competition, as I'm sure Martin will attest to.
You agree with that, Martin? You've as a player and a manager, you won it how many times?
As a player, I was in 3 finals and we won it twice, and as a manager, I was in 3 finals and we won it twice.
So like Simon, you've got a huge affection for it.
Of course I do. Yeah, I kind of fear for the future of it because UEFA are really taking over. We have everybody playing in Europe. Only the National League sides, I think, won't be involved in Europe in the next 2 or 3 years. Anybody who avoids relegation seems to be in European football, and that seems to be a big hole. If you're thinking about a competition, and definitely after the FA Cup, I was brought up in the FA Cup. The FA Cup was possibly even more important than whoever won the league in those years. And I don't want to feel as if I'm a Luddite, but if the FA Cup is now, we are talking about a round of the FA Cup being played in this midweek. then that's losing its lustre. So if that's losing its lustre, then the League Cup is going to lose its lustre. I have been delighted that it's been contested and won by big clubs in the last number of years, and it has been taken more seriously. And I would hate to lose the competition. But there is an expanding length of group here, or sorry, not group, but an expanding time here where you feel as if it might be done away with. I do fear for it. I'm with Simon. I love the competition. I hope it stays, but I do fear for its future.
You see, they're already chipping away at it, Simon. I mean, getting rid of two-legged semi-finals is currently being debated.
Yeah.
So that's a start, isn't it? That's a start. They're chipping away at it. In time, the decision may have to be made. All right, we've loved it, but it's time up.
It depends who you think they are and what this conspiracy theory is about this competition. There is a thought process that 14 teams in the Premier League are not overly worried about what's happening in Europe. There's only 6 teams that are worried about what's happening in Europe because they're the ones that participate in it. If there does need to be some evolution, if it does need to be some sophistication, if there's a scenario, which would you rather have? A tournament that plays a one-legged semi-final, or no tournament whatsoever because you would like to hold to the traditions of the past, which you have a two-legged semi-final. Things do need to change. I'm a major advocate for if it isn't broken, don't fix it. And the only people that are complaining about this, if there are anybody complaining about it, are the 6 clubs at the top of the Premier League that worry about their scheduling. And ironically, these are the clubs that are winning the bloody tournament, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the point is
that
UEFA
are expanding their tournaments.
Well, who gives a sod what they do?
Well, it's more games. It impacts the schedule.
But with due respect, there's 86 other teams in English professional football that aren't part of the 6 that are playing in European football. So,
but you get a lot more money to win those European competitions. You win the League Cup yesterday, you get 100k
for the 6 clubs at the top. Like, we're not talking about. I'm not interested in the 6 clubs at the top.
100,000 for winning it
again.
Yesterday.
But that's not the point, is it? The point is that might be the prize pot. You've also got the attendances. You've got the revenue you get during the course of the season in the cup games. You get the revenue split that you get for being in the final itself. So it's a lot more than that. But the point is this: is that there are 14 clubs in the Premier League that have to vote in a scenario where the other 6 want what they want, which is we don't really care about the League Cup. Again, I make the point: if they don't care about the League Cup, they seem to be winning it awful lot, given their participation in it. There may be trade-offs. It may be a scenario where there has to be some facilitation of solutions to some of the scheduling issues, but I mean, Parry's no fool. He knows that the EFL Cup, which is ostensibly what it is now, is a valuable property, and they need all the revenue they can get. So the only way that you're going to find this being slightly diminished in any shape or form is if the Premier League are going to sweep a great big chunk of money off the table, and there's no evidence that they're particularly minded to do that. Because if I'm Rick Parry, I know Rick Parry's asking for 25%. If I'm getting somewhere between 15 and 20% of the TV revenues, at this moment in time, the broadcast revenues in this country are worth $3.5 billion a season. If you add in the broadcast deals for the EFL, I would be wanting 700 million of that. They're currently getting about 250. So do you think the Premier League are going to be sweeping off another 450 million quid anytime soon? So this is a long way from being settled. A lot of conclusions are drawn, and a lot of presumptions are made.
Yeah.
There is still an immense value in this competition, and I don't see the EFL handing it into the knackers yard anytime soon.
Martin, on another front altogether, I was in between 2 different areas of Wembley. I got to my seat just after kickoff, so I missed it. And I'm talking about the national anthem. And again, it came in for a bit of derision from certain quarters, no doubt. Quite a bunch of Liverpool fans who don't ever have it, don't want it, don't want to hear it, and they vent their emotion when they do hear it. Is it time to drop the national anthem for Wembley showpieces? Is that a fair question? Should it be saved for international matches?
I don't think necessarily that should be the case. I don't see why. This is an English competition. Why shouldn't you play the national anthem? The only thing about it is if you know that there's going to be a section that are going to boo it throughout its playing, then that might become a bit of a problem. But I don't see any reason why the national anthem shouldn't be played before the game.
I was sitting down, Martin, and I heard 1 or 2 people around me were saying, wow, they let rip again at the national anthem. And I wasn't aware of it. Watching it, did you think, Well, there's that quarter of support
No,
that do not want to hear God Save the King, as it is now.
They are. I mean, I remember observing on people being uncomfortable and booing with players taking the knee and saying, well, look, people are entitled to their opinion. I don't think the booing is the right sentiment, but they're entitled to the view, and who am I? I don't respect the Liverpool fans' view on this. I don't hold the monarchy as being responsible for what happened in the 1980s under Margaret Thatcher's government. I think it's a ridiculous assertion, but it's theirs, and they're entitled to it. I certainly don't think that you should be standing down the national anthem because one set of supporters don't like it. It's fine, boo them, if that makes you happier. If you have the deep-seated belief that the royal family were complicit in allowing Margaret Thatcher to spend no money in Liverpool in the 80s and whatever else, then that's your viewpoint. And if you want to boo for the 5 minutes or 2 minutes that it's on, fantastic. But I don't think that a tournament and a competition and showcase environments that are broadcast around the world should be influenced by one set of people's thinking.
Is there any damage done in terms of image to the product? 100 countries worldwide tuned in yesterday.
Not really. I mean, we see people booing people's anthems all around the world. It's not just unique to our fans, it happens to be unique. You know, we've seen international matches where people are booing one another's national anthems because it's sport. And that's how they think it's. I don't mean sport in terms of what the game consists of, because that's obvious. I mean, it's sport for them. Look, the Liverpool fans have a unique perspective. It's theirs, it's their gift. I don't respect it, but they're not asking me to respect it. And I don't think that we should be climbing down and taking the national anthem off because a section or all or every single fan that supports Liverpool has that view.
There's Judge, a Liverpool fan. I'm somewhat bemused by that. Don't act shocked about the anthem. It doesn't need dropping. Just speak about why we boo it properly, not with bias.
No one's biased. We followed your words, but I've been told repeatedly my ignorance betrays me. The reasons why these people boo this anthem is because... So I'm repeating back what they've said, and I don't respect that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't brought up in the Liverpool in the 1980s. I didn't have that viewpoint. But I don't respect the notion that a constitution that's consisted of a king or a queen at that time having no power to elect who goes into office is somehow complicit in a government making decisions. It's
You would argue, man, because it's an English tournament, it's an English Cup tournament, it's quite right and proper that they have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 81089 if you want to send me a message on that. We're at 11:15.
On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.
I think in the short term, of course, it is good news, but I would have concerns about what this means in the long term, because Everton are also facing a second charge. And if a precedent has now been set that if you break these financial rules, you're going to be hit with a 6-point penalty. If they get the same penalty for this second charge, then they're going to get another 6-point penalty. So at the moment, they're up to 15th in the table with 25 points. But if they get 6-point penalty for the second charge, then they would be back down to 19th place because they would lose another 6 points.
Yeah.
So I think, look, in the short term, of course, it is pretty good news. I think if you were an Everton fan, you would have been hoping that you wouldn't have had a points deduction at all. That all the 10-point deduction would have been overturned and you would have been hit with just a financial penalty, like a big fine. But as it is, I think it's a little bit of good news, not too much. I wouldn't be getting too carried away if I was an Everton supporter, and I think Everton fans will still be angry about this whole process and also the fact that they are fighting for their lives at the bottom of the Premier League and they still have to fight another charge as well. And I think that if the outcome is the same as the first charge, then it's very likely that they'll get another 6-point deduction.
It's interesting, reading between the lines of the Premier League statement, you know, they said that the Everton FC appealed the sanction imposed against it on 9 grounds, each of which related to the sanction rather than the fact of the breach, which the club obviously, we knew they'd admitted this breach, haven't they? And then the Premier League go in to say 2 of those 9 grounds were upheld by the appeal board, which has substituted the original points deduction of 10 for 6. So it kind of feels like those 2 were kind of pretty bad and worthy of 6 points. Because if it was 9 into 10, I'm trying to do a maths equation here, and you might think per point that they were making, they might have won a point back. And actually, they only won 4 points back, and only 2 of those 9 grounds were upheld.
It's interesting the contrast between the statement from the Premier League and the statement from Everton. If you read the statement from the Premier League, it's very businesslike.
Yeah.
They just deal in the facts of what happened, and they finish off by saying that they're satisfied with today's decision. If you read the statement from Everton, they also say that they're satisfied with the reduction, but they also say that they are particularly pleased with one part of this decision, and that is the appeal board's decision to overturn the original commission's finding that the club had failed to act in good faith. So the original commission found that Everton had failed to act in good faith, and that has now been overturned. And as far as Everton are concerned, that is a very important point of principle. And they go on to say that they will now fully cooperate regarding the second charge with another new independent commission that is going to be set up. I mean, a lot of people from the outside looking in will be saying, what is going on with these financial rules? We are entering the most crucial part of the season where clubs, especially at the bottom of the table, do not know what the Premier League table looks like, because the bottom of the Premier League is being decided by these independent commissions which are being set up to look into financial matters. And I know a lot of fans will be thinking, look, if we're found guilty of breaking financial rules, we should be hit with a financial penalty, not a points deduction. Because if you look at the Premier League table now, the bottom, you don't know what is what. There have been points deductions, there could be more on the way. Appeals board have overturned and reduced sanctions, and we haven't even started talking about Nottingham Forest, because Nottingham Forest are facing a charge as well. And if the benchmark has today been set that you get a 6-point penalty if you break these financial rules, then I think Forest drop down into the relegation zone as well. They would be in 19th place. So it is a very confusing picture, but I think if you spoke to the Premier League, they're not going to speak in public, but I think if they could, they would say these are the rules that have been agreed by the 20 clubs. They were all voted on. These are the rules. They're in the rule book of the league, and that is what we have to stick to.
It's interesting that, you know, the reasons summary that we sort of gave you, there were 61 pages of it, and I'm sure you haven't even had a chance to look through hardly any of it, but some of the mitigating factors, they were sort of saying the mitigating factor was that the loss is reduced year on year. And I guess that's what they're going to hope helps this latest charge, that they still don't know what's happening with that, because that's on June 2023, but it goes back 3 years. So we go 2023, 2022, 2021, don't we? What sort of timescale are we looking at? Because they were deducted these 10 points on November the 17th, and here we are at the end of February, only just hearing about the appeal. So going on that, are we looking at April, May, or where are we looking at?
The rules say the reason this was done pretty quickly, although a lot of people will say it hasn't been quick at all, because Everton were originally deducted 10 points in November.
Yeah.
And where are we now? November, December, January, February, 3 months later, we finally had the appeals decision. Now the whole process has to start again with 2 separate commissions, one for Everton, one for Nottingham Forest as well. And then, of course, they will have the right to appeal, and then a new appeal panel would have to be set up. But the Premier League insistent that this all needs to be done within like 3 or 4 days after the end of the season. So we're still heading for a situation where we could have games on the final day of the season and we won't be sure what the bottom of the Premier League looks like because we won't have had the final decisions about these points deductions, possibly for Everton and Nottingham Forest. I think it's important just to state the background to this. The reason why we are where we are is that clubs are allowed to lose £105 million over a rolling 3-year period. And Everton admitted that they had lost more than that. I think it was £124.5 million. So there were £19.5 million over
Yeah.
what they were allowed to lose. Now, in the grand scheme of things, £19.5 million in Premier League football terms is not a lot of money. Critics would argue that these rules should have been updated, that the amount you were allowed to lose should have increased in line with inflation and in line with how transfer fees have gone up. And if that had happened, then Everton wouldn't be in this situation at all, and certainly Nottingham Forest wouldn't be in this situation at all. Also, you have to think about, the Everton majority owner, Farhad Moshiri. They have got into this situation because he has spent too much money. He has lost about £750 million on his investment in Everton. The club have been involved in 3 straight Premier League relegation battles. They've gone through this whole process with the independent commission, then an appeal board as well. They're facing another charge as well, which could lead to another points deduction as well. And the club are more than £500 million in debt. They are building a brand new stadium. There is the whole takeover saga as well, with 777 partners in the background. So it is a very, very messy situation, and it is absolutely incredible to think what Everton fans must be going through at the moment, because it seems to be one blow after another. And you have to have some sympathy for them when they argue that these financial crimes should not be dealt with points deductions. They should be dealt with financial penalties. Don't punish the fans, punish the people who took these decisions and hit them in the pocket. Don't hit the team with points deductions.
So why are they then? That begs the question: why are they doing it to the club? Why are they points deduction? Why aren't they doing that?
Because the Premier League, it is made up of 20 clubs. They get together, they come up with new laws. People argue we should have these financial penalties. It's not fair that states are now owning clubs. We have to have very strict financial regulations in place, and if people break them, then there should be penalties, including points deductions. It's been voted on. It's all there in the Premier League handbook. I don't think Everton supporters can just blame the Premier League or the Premier League executive. The Premier League executive are just, enacting the policies that have been agreed upon by the 20 clubs.
At a time when an independent regulator, though, is supposedly the idea, is this kind of the Premier League saying, hang on a minute, we can do this ourselves, we can regulate ourselves. The Premier League clubs are agreeing with this. This is all above board. We're doing this in-house. Do you feel that?
I can understand what you're saying. I've heard that argument being made that the Premier League knows that there's an independent regulator coming along. Yeah. So what it wants to do is show that it is tough.
Yeah.
That the Premier League doesn't need an independent regulator, that it can take care of itself and it can punish clubs who break the rules. That's one way of looking at it. I'm not sure if that's the case. I'm pretty sure that the Premier League would say that is not the case. We are just going by the rules that have been agreed by the 20 clubs.
So that said, given the fact today that we've had this kind of retraction potentially, they've got the 4 points back, do you think Nottingham Forest are going to be looking at this today and thinking, right, worst case scenario, we get 6 points?
I think they are, because I think the issue is that basically with these rules, what you're doing is you're handing in your accounts, at the end of last year, and the accounts that you hand in show that you have lost more money than you should have. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty black and white. You're admitting the breach. And then there is an independent commission hearing where the Premier League will say, look, black and white, they've broken the rules. We suggest a 6-point deduction or a 9-point deduction or whatever it is. And then the club will defend themselves, Everton or Nottingham Forest, and will say, look, yes, We do admit that we broke these rules, but we broke these rules for a variety of reasons, because football is a very variable business. You don't know what's happening from one day to the other. You could get knocked out of a cup, you lose money, a transfer deal could fall through, you lose money. It is very difficult. So they'll be making all those arguments. Then it's up to that independent commission to decide what the punishment should be. I would just be worried if I was a Forest fan, and of course, every day you'd be worried if you're an Everton fan, because you think now that if 6 points is the sanction and that is the benchmark and that's been agreed, and Everton are saying they're satisfied and the Premier League is saying they're satisfied, does that mean from now on, whoever breaks these rules is definitely going to get 6 points? That is the worry I would have. Of course, this is all up in the air because we could have new rules coming in very soon as well, because I think the Premier League want to change their financial fair play rules so that they're more in line with UEFA's new financial fair play rules.
Just very finally and very briefly, because I know we're running out of time, but so then just in terms of this, and you probably don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it as kind of like an Everton fan or a Nottingham Forest fan. They're sat at home and they're thinking, right, we won't get a 10 points the next time. We're going to get a 6 points, and we can maybe appeal that. So could you see it reducing further, or do you think this is if they do say 6 points is the next charge, and the 6 points will be the deduction, even if they appeal, they'll get no appeal. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Because that's where
it feels. It just feels a bit arbitrary. You know, we've always looked at the league table, and the league table is the league table. That reflects performances on the pitch. 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw. Now we've got to a situation where the league table is going to be decided by independent three-person panels. And that's what's going to happen in Everton and Nottingham Forest's case. But as I said, the Premier League would say that this is all in the rule books. This has been agreed by the clubs. And there are plenty of clubs who will be happy with what is happening, because a lot of clubs will be saying, look,
we stuck by the rules.
We stuck by the rules.
Yeah.
Everton knew what the rules were. Nottingham Forest knew what the rules were, and for whatever reason, they've broken the rules. It has to be a level playing field for everybody. But I think a lot of people in football will have a lot of sympathy for Everton supporters and the situation that they're in. Because the background to what has been going on and the fact that they're trying to build this new stadium. For instance, last week we heard from Jim Ratcliffe talking about rebuilding Old Trafford and how much that was going to cost. And Manchester United are supposed to be one of the biggest, richest clubs in the world, and they haven't been able to redevelop or build a new stadium. Whereas Everton, with all the problems they've been going through, with what happened with Alisher Usmanov and Ukraine and Russia and takeovers falling through and managers leaving and problems in the transfer market as well, they've managed still to be on course to build a brand new stadium despite everything that has been going on.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the managers do think of it. We actually are going to hear from Rob Edwards shortly, so it'd be interesting to see what Luton fans think of it.
The real big winners today, funny enough, in the long term, could end up being Luton Town. Because if you look at the bottom of the league table, obviously it looks like Burnley and Sheffield United are in big trouble. But Luton, their position, I think would be greatly affected by whatever happens to Everton and Nottingham Forest as well.
It was lovely chatting to Blaise and Stefano on the tube coming in from Wembley late last night. Two Liverpool fans who live in the East End of London.
Of course.
But of course, they come from here, there and everywhere. It was quite a day for Liverpool. Klopp has hailed this as a very, very special win because not so much of anything other than they got there in the end, but who didn't play? Salah, Nunez, Trent, Jota, Curtis Jones, Alisson, Szoboszlai. And in came people like Harvey Elliott, Conor Bradley, and then of course we saw Bobby Clark, Lewis Koumas, Jayden Danns, Trey Noni. Honestly, what a day it was for the kids coming through, and Klopp was super proud.
I got told outside that there's an English phrase, you don't win trophies with kids. I didn't know that. You're right in you. It is in my longer careers than mine, but in my more than 20 years, easily the most special trophy I ever won. Can you create in football stories which definitely nobody will ever forget? It's so true. It's so difficult because this happened before. They won it then. They did it there. This tonight, if you find the same story with academy players coming on against the top side, and still winning it, I never heard of.
So that was Jurgen Klopp down on the ground floor speaking to the media, whereas I was in a suite with some of the Chelsea and Liverpool hierarchy, and Liverpool chairman Tom Werner briefly echoed what Klopp said.
Fantastic. Just the resilience and the commitment, and all those players who normally wouldn't be on the first team that they came. And how about Gallagher? It's brilliant.
Does it make you super proud when you see these kids today?
Of course. And that, with the injuries that this club has had, they're fighting, and it's been a terrific day.
It's a start, Tom. There could be 3 more trophies to lift after this.
We're enjoying today.
Let me enjoy today. Thanks to Tom Werner for that. You'll hear from John Barnes and Ian Rush shortly. But Martin, this is a fella, Jurgen Klopp, who's won the Champions League with Liverpool, won the Premier League with Liverpool. But he said this was the most special trophy of his career.
Well, that's amazing to hear that. But in many aspects, you have to think about the immediacy of the game. It was the players that were coming onto the field. It was academy players, as they mentioned, coming onto the field. And they've won against the Chelsea side that have spent an awful lot of money. Okay, I'm sure it is. Obviously, he's won the Champions League, which is the biggest prize in the game. Won the Premier League as well too. But I understand what he's saying, because in the emotion of the moment, this is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic to have the players that they brought onto the field to come to win at Wembley in a trophy. Yeah, I still think, believe it or not, after, let's say, in 5 or 10 years' time, when he's thinking about the things that he's won, I still think that he will feel that, absolutely feel that.
Yeah, I think Martin's right with that, Simon. At the moment, we don't really know much about Bobby Clark, Kumas, Dans, Noni, but we will.
Sure. I mean, Jurgen Klopp earlier in the week compared beating Luton to their performance against Barcelona. So he's in that vein of thinking. He's in that over-sentimentalisation of where he is, because he's on his way out, and everything at this moment in time are precious moments. He has 7 more home games in front of the Kop before he brings down the curtain on his career. He's in a final. I think if you look at the interesting statistics about age and experience, Chelsea's starting lineup was younger than Liverpool's. Chelsea's finishing lineup was younger than Liverpool's. So all we're doing is comparing players that have been bought for a lot of money that have played more senior football. You look at some of those players that Liverpool have got. You look at the boy Bradley. Myself and Martin were talking during the break. This is a proper player, and an academy setup. This is what academy should be able to do. Yeah, they should be able to bring forth these players. If you've got good senior pros and you've got a good straight line management that's been there for a significant period of time that understands what it wants, this is what you should be seeing. Now, I'm not diminishing Liverpool's achievement in any shape or form. They didn't beat a top side.
But do you doubt him, Simon, when he says this is the most special trophy for him that he's won?
Well, who am I to doubt what he says? If that's what he thinks, if that's his moment, that's what he says. We listened to Marinakis, Martin's mate, when they got promoted into the Premier League, telling everyone they're going to win the European Cup or whatever else Nottingham Forest are going to do. People get caught up in the moment of things. For me, it's the first of 4. If he finishes the season by winning, what's the last game of the season likely to be? Is it the Europa League if he gets to the final?
Yes, it would be Europa League.
I would imagine if they win that after having won 2 more trophies and they're finishing the quadruple, he might have something to say about that being the most memorable. But right now, it's the first of the 4. Well done to Liverpool. Disappointed with Chelsea because I'm a Southerner, but I don't think they beat a top side. I think Chelsea are still a side that's miles away from it, vaguely resembling a top side. But Liverpool are a good side with good players and a good culture and a good outlook, and they're all playing for the manager. And anybody thought that there'd be any significant drop-off were deluded.
But you heard from Tom Werner saying, he will have a job in his hands, Tom Werner. They all will. John W. Henry and the rest of them to replace him. And you'll hear John Barnes on that shortly, and Ian Rush.
Well, of course they will. I mean, he's been a terrific manager, and he has the crowd with him here. But in the same vein, if you're going back some years ago, you know, you had Bill Shankly, who's probably considered one of the great managers. And after Bill Shankly, people thought, well, you know, Liverpool will disappear. And far from it, Bob Paisley come in and become one of the most successful managers of all time. Absolutely terrific. Then they had, you know, Kenny Dalglish was a great manager. You know, you've had these.
The only thing different with that, Martin, it was a continuation. The succession programme was there. So you go from Bill Shankly to Bob Paisley to Joe Fagan. They were all there in that particular space. Whereas now Liverpool are going outside of their environment and going, who do we get now? And
life has changed. There's no question about that there, and you're absolutely right about that. They probably will go outside now to find out somebody who might not know the Liverpool way, and I take your point entirely. But I think there's a number of things about this here. I think that Klopp, again, getting back to it, will still go back in 10 years' time and feel this. And one reason for it, Jim, is that it's a sort of a legacy for him as well. The legacy. And now, there's no guarantee. Simon, I did mention about Bradley being a terrific footballer, no question about it. And I think the games that he's played has shown that. There's no guarantee that some of those lads who are onto the field of play will end up being top quality Premier League players. But it's not the point. It's these players coming through from the academy. It's what Liverpool are now looking to be. Right. And that this is the whole point. They're not wanting to spend 85 million. The days of spending it that there on the centre half, who by the way has been sensational, you know, for them as a player. I'm talking about Van Dijk.
Yes.
And you know, I think we were all starting to doubt him a little bit last season, you know, coming back from the injury. Is he still the same player? He's been terrific. But what I'm saying is that really, in terms of the academy, it's the legacy that I think
he's perfect fit. I mean, if Klopp walks out the door winning trophies with young players, he's completed the full circle.
Absolutely.
He hands Liverpool over, going, look at this, I can bring kids into team and win cup finals.
Exactly.
What a way to finish.
Well, that's a great point. So they won it by and large with kids yesterday. Where does this trophy achievement for you Liverpool fans out there actually rank in the Klopp cabinet? Is this the perfect start to the Klopp farewell tour? How many more trophies will he land before he departs? 03717 223344 810 89. Will he make it 4 out of 4? Do you know what? He just might. We talk Chelsea in a moment.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.
So the £1 billion bottle jobs Chelsea lost the Carabao Cup Final to Liverpool, who had 8 members of their academy in their matchday squad, and there's a lot of criticism going round of Chelsea and the future of their manager Mauricio Pochettino. I'm joined by Will Pugh, who is the host of The Tap In, which is the Sun's new football show, which you can catch on the Sun's YouTube channel every week. And Will, do you think it's fair to call Chelsea £1 billion bottle jobs?
Not particularly. I mean, it makes nice headlines, doesn't it? And it makes nice clip-ups for social media, which I'm sure...
Well, that's what you like.
Well, quite, yeah. No, it's one of those things, isn't it, really? For Chelsea and Mauricio Pochettino, the £1 billion spent on players, that's that's a burden thrust on the squad and the manager by the ownership, isn't it? By splurging all that money.
Oh, terrible. Well, it's really tough to have £1 billion with the players.
But it is really, isn't it?
I bet he's gutted.
There was lots of, or Gary Neville it was, making the point about against Liverpool's youngsters have embarrassed them, and Chelsea have shrunk in the face of Liverpool's youngsters. Well, really, at the end of the game, Chelsea's average age of their squad was younger than Liverpool's was, because Liverpool had 3 teenagers in there. Everyone's like jumping on the bandwagon saying, it's terrible. Chelsea have got huge injury problems of their own at the moment, just sort of looking at the game. And so, it's sort of an easy stick to bash them with. But what I find, where the heat should be directed more so is upstairs, because in English football, it's been proven time and time again, at whatever level you are, whatever level of team you are, doing too much too soon in the transfer window. Nottingham Forest were lucky to escape, really, weren't they? We've had plenty of examples in the past of teams going out, spending loads of money, wholesale changes on their squads, and whatever stage you are, that's just irresponsible running of a football club. Lots of those players are clearly players for the future for Chelsea, which is the idea. So I sort of think, falling a bit short now is it's harsh to do. It's a bit harsh to be too hard on them, and also it was probably expected when Bowley come in and did that.
Hang on, you spend a lot of money on a so-called great coach, and I've always been told that Pochettino's a great coach. You've got £1 billion worth of players. You say you're the coach them and make them into a winning team. Why would you spend a lot of money on a coach if you can't do that?
Well, I agree, but Pep Guardiola's a good coach, isn't he? His first season at Manchester City, fairly underwhelming. These things don't happen.
No, but his previous seasons weren't underwhelming. Pochettino still doesn't win trophies. OK, he won Liga in France. But let's be honest, in England, his track record's not great. Do you also think...
No, but it is. He punched above his weight. He helped Tottenham punch above their weight, didn't he? No, but if you know...
Trophies.
But then any team outside of the top sort of 3 or 4, right? And Tottenham, I know they like to count themselves in the big 6, but let's be honest, it's sort of the big 5, Tottenham, and then everyone else, isn't it, realistically? So...
And Newcastle not the big 6.
No, I don't think so. Certainly not when Poch was at Tottenham. But don't you feel that you can't just say, oh, he didn't win anything as a barometer of whether a manager was a success or not? Pochettino was Tottenham's most successful manager. A Champions League final is still vast success, isn't it, at a club like Tottenham? I don't think immediate success, demanding immediate success from the £1 billion spend is really realistic, is it? Because when does it ever really happen straight away in football?
Do you think Pochettino gets more of a bashing from Chelsea fans who are sense are turning now because he was a Tottenham manager? Do you think that weighs against him, gives you less grace, if you like?
I don't.
We've got some Tottenham fans in here who don't like him because he went to Chelsea. So yeah. Chelsea feel the same way about getting a Tottenham man, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite as passionate. I don't think, Poch has said all the right things, isn't he? He's a bit of he's a media darling, if you like. He's quite.
Yeah, sounds like he's impressed you.
Well, no, but I do genuinely think so. If you're a club like Chelsea, that project, I think. Who else are you going to plug in there, though? Who else are you going to plug in who would do a vastly better job?
You've got all the buzz phrases. Is that what the youngsters are doing? The project, who you're going to plug in. Goodness me, come on. Get a winning football team. Pragmatic, whatever. Make them into winners.
But don't you think, right, we'll take the game at the weekend. Fine margins, that's another buzz phrase for you. Chelsea...
You talk to Dave Brailsford.
Chelsea hit the post, had a goal disallowed for a fractional offside, yeah.
Liverpool had one disallowed as well.
They did, yeah.
One that possibly wouldn't have been picked up in the pre-VAR days.
No, quite, but we are in the VAR days. Chelsea's wouldn't have been picked up pre-VAR, so these are the days we live in. Mm-hmm. And again, fine margins. That could have easily gone on 2 more minutes. That goes to penalties. Chelsea win. It's a totally different narrative based on It's not like they were beat at 4-0, is what I'm saying. If they were beat at 4-0, you go, oh, what a disaster. They've picked up a bit of form, haven't they? They lost 2 games on the spin. It was the Liverpool, they got absolutely humped, didn't they, at Anfield. Then lost at home to Wolves, and then 3 wins on the bounce, and it was all like, we're back on track, or we're on track finally. And don't you feel that with Chelsea, they are going in the right direction? They have got some good players in amongst all that. It might still take some more refining, but when you watch them play, you don't always think these lot are a disaster. You feel like it's just taking time to get to something.
Have you switched teams?
No, I haven't.
Have you suddenly... Will, for anybody who doesn't know, Will is pretty much a West Ham fan, and now he appears to have switched to Chelsea and defending them about everything and how unlucky they were and give Poch more time and he's lovely and they've got all the right players. They've got a lot of players who, it seems to me, people keep saying they've all got potential, but would you pick any of them out and say, he has been excellent, he's going to be great?
I think Cole Palmer's probably your standout performer there. I think what Chelsea fans have liked in recent times anyway is that the spine of that team they seem to be getting more and more comfortable with that. The Disasi Colwell centre-back partnership, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, I mean, they're not looking like the £212 million of player that they
What can you get for £212 million? Yeah.
Right, but it feels...
a striker.
I mean, Jackson, he's got a bit of heart and a bit of fight about him, doesn't he, to be fair, which I think is what Chelsea need at the moment. But he's clearly not at the level that they require.
There's no Drogba.
No, he isn't a Drogba or a Diego Costa, and that much is clear. So again, that's probably an area of refinement that will take place in the summer. You'd imagine.
Well, they've got more money to spend, don't they? Get hit by FFP.
Well,
they spend loads of money and
7-year, 8-year contracts. I just think what it is. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I got quite a lot of stick from Chelsea fans in the comments of the preview that I did with Andy Dillon, Sun Sports Chelsea correspondent, ahead of the game, when I was talking about all of Liverpool being decimated by injuries. They were quick to tell me how many injuries they had in their own squad, which I will hold my hands up and say, yeah, that's a fair point. I just don't think that there's not many voices saying, oh, hang on a minute, it's perhaps not as much of a disaster as people think. I can see shoots of
Liverpool
green
had
shoots
10 first-team players. 10 players would have been in that side. Those youngsters would have been nowhere near the team or the bench. They're 10. I mean, and Chelsea lost. I mean, it isn't good enough, is it? I mean, it really isn't.
Well,
I don't think I'm going to be able to persuade you that it's not good enough. I mean, how much money do you have to spend on the project?
It was 118th minute winner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the depths of extra time by not one of their teenagers, by their most senior statesman in Virgil van Dijk. It's not a 4-0 walloping. They got to the final. For Chelsea and where they want to be, that's not. I understand that's not a success, a triumph. They want to get there and win these things. But surely it's the sort of thing with Gareth Southgate, right? When people say, he's an awful manager because he hasn't won anything. It's like, well, actually, he's still done the best of any England manager since I've been alive. So I find it hard to say he's a bad manager or that this is really bad. It's different if it doesn't feel like I feel like this is a step on a pathway on the way to something.
To what?
Well, just perhaps a Chelsea for whom the last 15 or 20 years in the Roman Abramovich days, we've been a bit more used to seeing.
I'll tell you who wins trophies. Jose Mourinho. That's the fellow who wins trophies. Bring him back for a third time is some of the chatter. Being a new Chelsea fan, what do you make of that?
and a Mauricio Pochettino fan, apparently. No, but what do you think? With a young team that they've got there, some of them are still rough diamonds, aren't they? A lot of them, barely any of them, like you just made that point, are the finished product. I mean, perhaps Cole Palmer, you'd say, yeah, he's there, but that's probably
he's
because
a youngster. I mean, he was a youngster, so why the other youngsters have to step up like he stepped up?
Yeah, but don't you think Cole Palmer is good because he's a product of Manchester City and he's been training with Pep Guardiola for 2-3 seasons.
He's also training with Mauricio Pochettino.
But for not for as long. The points being made are that with Liverpool and with the youngsters, and I think that's what Poch was saying in his response to Gary Neville's comments, was that Gary knows the dynamics are completely different, I think were his exact words. And what he probably means by that is that Liverpool are a club who are very, very deep, sort of 8 years maybe probably more than that, into the Jurgen Klopp reign, where every single person in the club knows the identity of the club, how they're trying to play, how every single player in every single position plays. So when these youngsters who have come on and done really well, the reason they've come on and done well is because they've probably been training, the left backs have been training behind Andy Robertson and then Costa Tsimikas or whatever. The midfielders have been training behind Henderson and Thiago, doing the same drills and the same things and in the same meetings for years, so they know the identity of the club. Mauricio Pochettino hasn't had that time. Give it 2 or 3 years and we'll be talking about something else.
If we're sitting down on here on Thursday after they've played against Leeds, proper old-fashioned cup tie, Leeds versus Chelsea on Wednesday, and they lose that one, I wonder what your opinion is going to be then.
Get him out.
Because that would be a serious defeat.
No,
need to be bang up for that. Whoa.
Quite. And look, that's what I'm saying. Losing 4-2 at home to Wolves, not good enough. Some of the results they've had this year, I mean, they're 11th in the league. When you say 11th, that sounds awful. I think they're only 4 points off 7th. They finished 7th at the end of the year, which is still perfectly feasible. Again, not good. You would no way call that a success, but you wouldn't call it a disaster given where they're at in this the project.
Now, you host your own podcast. You also, as I say, host the Tap In show for us, and you talk to a lot of fans and a lot of the bloggers and podcasters of their own clubs. What feeling do you get from the Chelsea ones?
Well, we had Alex Harris and Charlie Patrick on earlier on in the season from Chelsea Fan TV. Every game, home and away. Bless them, they were off up to Middlesbrough after we recorded our show, and theirs was they seemed sort of quite calm about it. I think they were very much, they acknowledged the huge upheaval at the club and that was going to have some knock-on effects, and I do sense a bit of that's shifting, but you do have to be patient. Any football fan who understands a bit about football. I mean, these days it's all so much. We're all stuffed full of the business and the finance, and now we're all sort of experts on FFP as fans anyway. I think there is more of an understanding now of other factors at football clubs that affect performance on the pitch. And I don't think this can go on for too much longer. If we're having this same conversation at this stage next season, after another transfer window of huge,
we're going to get to this stage next season.
That's quite. I don't think he gets this far next season. But if he finishes 7th this season, he's got to the final of the League Cup. There's every chance he'll get to the final, even win the FA Cup. It's still salvageable, isn't it? And still, there's no reason why Pochettino wouldn't start the next season as Chelsea boss.
There you go. Will, he's sticking with Poch. Give him a chance. Chelsea are going to come good. You can catch Will, as I say, on the Sun's Tap In show with Izzy Barker every week.
Morning, George.
Morning, George.
Morning, guys. Great show as always. Thanks, George. What have you got to say?
Like, I've got a bit of a rant, really. I'll go, so just give me my space here. I'll take the loss. I'll take the loss on the chin. But all of this Klopp business is just unreal. The bias is just unjust at the moment. Like yesterday, the commentary, the godfather of football. That's what they're describing. Klopp's kids. Have Chelsea not been playing with kids all season? And then they're going on about the money we spent. Van Dijk cost £75 million. Okay, it's just, it keeps on going and going and going. The VAR decision, okay, with Jackson, right? Was he offside? And then you look at the one that was done within like 10 seconds. And then you look at the Liverpool one. Have you ever seen a referee go to the monitor for an offside decision? Never. It is unreal what is going on right now. And it's got, it's just, okay, the man's going. Well done. But what's he actually done in 8 years?
Hey, I'll tell you, George, you wouldn't want him as your manager then?
No, I wouldn't have.
Oh, George!
I wouldn't have.
George, he's done better than all right, surely. I mean, let's be honest about it. For a club, he's got a Champions League with a club, and then he won them a title, and he hadn't won it for 30 years.
Yeah, it's been 8 years. They're calling him the godfather of football. What about Axel? For a club who's telling in his grave?
Yeah.
It's like, it's unreal.
George, we've given you some space, but we're losing you,
Brilliant,
mate.
mate.
Your line's pretty bad, but thanks for the call.
Thanks,
Absolutely
George.
fantastic.
Great.
George, the Chelsea fan, he wouldn't want Jurgen Klopp
Love it.
as their manager. Good morning, Harry.
Harry, good morning.
You wind-up merchant, you. Who do you want to be the next Chelsea manager?
Sam Allardyce.
Right, Harry, the next obvious question would be, why?
Well, I think Pochettino's completely out of his depth. I don't think he's got a clue, to be honest with you. And I think Sam Allardyce is experienced, and I think he's ruthless, and I think he'd do better with the current Chelsea squad than Pochettino would.
You are winding us up, aren't you? With all due respect to Sam.
No.
Right. How do you think that suggestion would go down with other Chelsea fans?
Well, I think if they were listening now, I expect they're in a bit of shock. But no, I think Allardyce is 100% a better man for the job than Pochettino.
Well, I've got to say to you,
You're speechless, Ali, are you?
And I'm arguably Sam's biggest fan. I think Sam is brilliant the way he does, but I think even Sam would maybe admit that the days have perhaps gone where he's going to get the Chelsea manager's job, Harry. So there's still part of me thinking, you say you're not at the wind-up, there's still part of me thinking you're at the wind-up, mate.
Well, I don't blame you. I can see why you think I'm winding you up, but as I say, I think Sam's still got more to prove. I think his last job was at Leeds. He didn't have a lot of games to keep him up.
Harry, look, thank you very much for your call, mate. I was laughing because Sean, the Liverpool fan's been on again and said, these Chelsea fans need to start a comedy show. I've got another text here that says, stop bullying George and kissing Klopp's derriere. Well, to be honest, I think this weekend it's okay to kiss Klopp's derriere because he's won the Carabao Cup with a team of academy graduates. Anyway, Harry, thanks very much. It's a novel suggestion. He also suggested, by the way, that Steve Bruce should come in as Sam's number 2.
And here's an interesting one, Jeff. Somebody's come on. Robo, the Chelsea fan, he's not happy with this Liverpool narrative of the plucky Liverpool kids against Chelsea billionaires. He says the average age of Liverpool was 25.8. Chelsea's average age was 23.8. At the end, Liverpool's was 24.1. Chelsea's was 22.6. So there's some stats for you.
Well, we did say that earlier in the show, but it was just the fact that there were some very untried youngsters in that Liverpool side. I mean, Chelsea had some young players, but those young players also, not their fault, a lot of them came with big price tags. Absolutely.
Good morning, Zach. Klopp FM.
It is indeed Klopp FM today, for one day only.
I take it you're not going to say something positive on Klopp FM about Klopp.
Well, look, fair play to Liverpool. They won with an underpowered team for sure. I think, I thought Chelsea got problems, right? But I think in the second half, Chelsea had the better of the game and had the momentum. I actually thought in extra time, Poch, for Lord knows what reason, switched it to soaking up Liverpool and trying to hit on the break with 2 quick wingers of Madueke and Mudryk, which didn't work. I mean, the only trick Liverpool had, to be fair, was the big guy at the corner. And if you're going to soak up the pressure like Chelsea did, which was completely naive, that is the end result. But I can't believe that Carragher gets to commentate on Sky, because I thought it was disgraceful. It was completely biased for Liverpool. But there you go. That's my summation. Well done, Liverpool. I don't think it was a great win against any other decent team. Liverpool would have lost with an underpowered team, but there you go. They did well and they got the cup.
So, sorry, Jeff. Just a quick one then. The importance of the cup tie now against Leeds United.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's really important. But look, I was a season ticket holder last season, and I quit this season because I can't see any shape, any development, and any progress in the team. We have a young team, expensive team, but they don't look like they're playing together. There's no real shape to the club, and it's a bit frustrating.
Look, Greg, thanks very much.
Thanks for the call, mate.
As it happens, I made a little note today to say, and look, Jamie Carragher's a mate of mine, and he's a brilliant commentator. He's a passionate Red, but I made a note saying, I didn't actually, after the Liverpool, the Van Dijk goal was chalked off, and Carra immediately says, well, that happens in games, doesn't it? Every single week of the season. I said, Jamie should not be allowed to commentate on Liverpool games just because he's not objective. And I'm not really saying that as a criticism because, he's a mega fan. So it's very hard to be objective. It's like giving me a Hartlepool game to commentate on. I wouldn't be objective either. And I think it's a mistake.
I don't necessarily agree with you, Jeff. I've got to be honest with you. There's nobody wants, when I do Rangers games, there's nobody wants Rangers to win more than me. However, maybe I'm the wrong person to make the comment, but I genuinely 100% do my utmost best to give a fair reflection on the game that I see. whether it's decisions in front of me.
Just think Jamie gets carried away occasionally. And I know what Sky want. Obviously, they want to maintain that chemistry that Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher do have together. They're a brilliant commentary team. But just think on an occasion as big as that. And by the way, I've got another text in here saying Klopp has won as many league titles and FA Cups as Leicester, and as many leagues in FA Cups and Champions League as Chelsea since he's been at Liverpool. What's so special about what he has achieved?
Talk Sport Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the Talk Sport app and on your smart speaker. Talk Sport.
This is the line that has been picked up absolutely everywhere. Gary Neville said that it was Klopp's kids against the blue £1 billion bottle jobs. That line was actually put to Maurizio Pochettino after the match, and this was his response.
I don't hear what he said, but I think if you compare the age of the two groups, I think it's similar. But look, know that the dynamics are completely different. And we were playing today Liverpool and Chelsea, Liverpool, and I think it's not fair to talk in this way.
Is it justified, Mark? Because it's always going to be thrown at Chelsea since Todd Boehly came in about how much money they've spent, which is obviously where this quote has come from. But is it fair to call them that?
I think it's unfair. I think this is the start of a project for Maurizio Pochettino. This is the start of a new era for Chelsea under Todd Boehly and the ownership model. They have gone into the market, they have bought some of the best available young players, and they're trying to create an exciting team. So therefore, you have to say, well, how much time do they get to build this? You know, are they expected to win silverware at the very beginning? But then people may also say, well, hang on, Liverpool had the biggest rebuilding of their midfield this summer. They've lost numerous players and they've been able to do it. So therefore, actually Chelsea should be judged in the same way. They should be able to bring players in, develop them and produce results. So therefore, I think, it's one of those things you have to look at with interest as to how this develops moving forward now. Maurizio Pochettino, that's 3 finals in England and he's been beaten in all 3. There were question marks whether he could get the job done. He had the ability to win silverware and deliver the big titles. Of course, he'll be judged. Yesterday, you felt like it was a defining match for Chelsea and him, and the scenes afterwards as well will be interesting because, of course, that relationship with Todd Boehly is going to be key moving forward. Will he be given time to continue building what they're showing in parts? But I think Chelsea's biggest problem is their consistency.
Well, let's look at that relationship between Pochettino and Todd Boehly a little bit closer, because at the end of the match, when Maurizio Pochettino went up to get his runners-up medals, there was a conversation about whether he slightly snubbed Todd Boehly here in the handshake. On closer inspection, it looks as though he kind of gives him a quick left-handed one and is moving down the line quite quickly. But it is an interesting dynamic, isn't it, when you've got this owner who spent so much money, you're another manager that's come in. Everyone needs a bit of time, right? They've got to give this time to settle.
They need time. He needs time. You know, you can't wave a wand and create a team that is going to win silverware. I think watching that clip a few times, we probably need to get VAR involved here.
Oh no, please no.
It looks like there's a little touch from Pochettino to Todd Boehly there. But the body language is key. The fact that the Chelsea boss looks so unhappy. He's normally such a positive guy when you see him in press conferences and on match day. The fact that he didn't get over the line yesterday, he's hurting, and you can see that.
It was I loved watch. I thought it was really, normally cup finals can be a bit turgid, can't they? But that was absolutely brilliant.
Full of drama, wasn't it? I mean, I know not a lot of goals, we get that, but at the same time, the drama was unbelievable. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of goals. That was partly because, Chelsea's finishing was terrible. Yep. But Gallagher was absolutely fantastic as well. But look, Ali, I mean, do the Liverpool owners, do they need to be on the phone today to try and persuade Jurgen Klopp to change his mind about whatever it takes?
Surely they've done that. I mean, yes, they have to do it again if you're asking me that question. But I would have thought, when it came out and the news broke, you would have thought it'd be common sense for Liverpool's owners to do everything they possibly could to dissuade him from leaving. Whether he's set in stone and he's made his mind up and that's it, which certainly looks the case, But Jeff, you got to say, you got to go back and have another go. You got to go back and have another go. You know what he's achieved, just the way he handles it, everything about it. Young kids coming off the bench.
He showed breathtaking faith in their ability, and you could see that reflected in their performance.
It was amazing. He was fearless, you know. And to be fair to him, those kids are fearless. Those kids that you're bringing on are absolutely fearless, and they're great. And the one thing you got to say, if he does go, it looks as though he's leaving Liverpool in fantastic hands, which isn't always the case when a successful manager leaves a club, you know. You got to have another bite at him to see if he would stay, because from Liverpool's point of view, he's just a different level.
Now, I didn't think Chelsea played badly, and by the way, we're talking about kids. You know, it wasn't quite the same. I get that, but but they had Chilwell who's 20, and Gusto's 20, Palmer's 21, Caicedo's 22, Madueke's 21, Jackson's 22, Gilchrist was 20, was on the bench. You know, so they've got a young side as well. Do they have to stick with Pochettino, or are you with some of the fans who think the time's up?
No, I think you've got to stick. I do. I don't think change, you know, is a necessity. I don't. What a chance they had to win a trophy. At the same time, I'm more, Jeff, I'm more in the camp. I give Liverpool more praise than Chelsea stick, to be honest with you. Could Chelsea have won? The chances to win it, the finishing was poor. I mean, the game could have gone either way. Liverpool's disallowed goal, Jackson's disallowed goal, which, dear me, I don't know how tight that was. And then you get Van Dijk's header. The game was on a knife edge, and it was a flick of the coin. So, I mean, I'm certainly not going to be as critical of Chelsea and Pochettino as some of the pundits and some people are. But what an opportunity it was for him to get his first piece of silverware. I absolutely don't deny that.
The listeners who are saying we aren't giving Liverpool any credit, well, all back pages of the papers today. The Sun going for kindergarten Klopp hails greatest cup win as he wins with the kids. The Times back page going for Klopp hails the special one. The Mail saying the special one. Mail Sport, you can win anything with the kids. The Mirror going for bow wow. The Express headline is top of the Klopps, and the Telegraph, Klopp's kids beat Chelsea's £1 billion bottle jobs. Now, if you heard that commentary yesterday when it happened, everyone went, oh, shady. But that was quite funny at the same time. Well, it's dominating a lot of the headlines today. And actually, Pochettino was asked about it after the game. It's inside the Times today. Tom Alnott saying, when Pochettino was asked about it, he said, I think we have similar groups. I have a good relationship with Gary. I respect his opinion. It was Gary Neville, of course, who said the £1 billion bottle jobs. We made a few changes in extra time, but it's true, we didn't keep the energy, and we finished in the second half how we finished. But that line, calling clubs bottle jobs because they unfair, unnecessary.
I think it's unfair.
Right.
I think it's unfair, and I think you normally hear it from people that have never been there. It's the first time I could have heard it from somebody that has been there, like Gary, to be fair to him. But I disagree with him. You know, bottle jobs is far too strong. You got to give Liverpool credit, right? And Chelsea could have won the game, right? They missed chances. Conor Gallagher's a couple of good chances. Jackson's goals, very, very marginal. Keller's a couple of great saves. I think it is extremely strong and wrong to call them bottle jobs, although they do deserve criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Ali. You know, look, it's a great line from Gary, who's absolutely brilliant. You know, and he called so much of that game brilliantly as well, by the way. But bottle jobs, I mean, they were disappointing, weren't they, in extra time? But they had 19 attempts on goal, so they weren't passive during the course of the game. And I mentioned before, you know, they had their own kids out there. My question would be, with the billions they've spent, why are they having to play 20-year-olds in one of the biggest games of the season, you know? They can say, well, we've invested for the future. Maybe so. The question is, will that future be under Mauricio? I hope it is, personally.
Jeff, I don't know if you actually saw yesterday at the end of the game when they were going up to get their second place medals. Todd Boehly, it looks like, has gone to shake the hand of Mauricio Pochettino. It's only in a couple of the papers today. It's more dominant online. And it looks like Poch has snubbed Todd Boehly. Is that another way of handing in your notice type thing? Or What's the vibe there if you've ignored the owner?
Instant, you know what it's like when you see if you see on a TV coverage of a football match, when you freeze it still, you can make it look like anything, and I don't think that's been the case at all. You know, I mean, he'd have a point, wouldn't he, if he was saying, you know, thank you very much for buying me Mudryk or somebody like that, you know. But I don't think so at all. I think he's in for the long haul. Whether Todd Bowley's in for the long haul, I've got no idea.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think. I mean, he's too classy, Pochettino, to do that. He's not. I mean, even if he's got a problem with him, he's not going to do that public snub like that. I think the picture just maybe makes you think there's something that's not really there. Whether they got on well or not is another matter, and whether they agree with each other. But he's not. I don't think he's going to do that.
Speaking of things that will be there in terms of pictures, is the happiness of the young Liverpool players who got their opportunity, the amount of them who got to play and who have played this season under Jurgen Klopp. He has the X factor as a manager, undoubtedly, and definitely. How important that he is giving those youngsters the opportunity on his final season with the club.
It was sensational. I thought the biggest thing about it's easy to bring your kids on if you're 2-0 up or you're 2-0 down. But he's bringing them on at 0-0 in a key part of the game. I mean, and I just think he showed unbelievable faith, and that faith, you know, was reflected by the kids' performance, because they knew the boss believes in them, so they believe in themselves. I think it's incredible. And I'll tell you what, and it won't be popular in every part of the country, I know, but goodness me, I think Klopp leaving Liverpool will be a massive loss for Liverpool, but it'll be a massive loss for the game in this country.
Of course it will. He's been fantastic. I mean, he's been a breath of fresh air. He's been front page news, he's been back page news. And I say it again, Jeff, he's just one of these coaches and one of these managers, as a player and as a fan, you absolutely love. And Liverpool, you know, will have a problem. I don't care what anybody says, they will have a problem replacing somebody that's as good as that.
Yeah.
Well, in the Sun today, Dave Kidd is speaking about the Blues now having lost 6 consecutive Wembley finals, 3 of them against Klopp's Liverpool. But there's a good piece actually by Ian Ladyman in the Mail today. It says, for this was not just a football match lost by Pochettino and his team. No, this was a triumph of one creed over another, a victory for continuity, patience and planning over the crudeness of a boom and bust football culture. But now you look at what Klopp has and leaving, and this headline being Pochettino must look at what Liverpool have and weep. It shows you how quickly things can change, you know, and where Liverpool might be in a couple of years from now might be so different to where Chelsea are a couple of years from now.
I would say, by the way, you know, Liverpool have spent a few quid over the years themselves.
Talk Sport Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the Talk Sport app and on your smart speaker. Talk Sport.
Klopp, he described it, didn't he, that win as his biggest and most special triumph. Why did that one mean so much?
Jurgen Klopp has won 12 trophies as a manager. Of course, the Bundesliga, the Premier League, the Champions League. But it was yesterday's League Cup victory that he's described as his greatest. And you got the sense watching the game, the emotions he was going through, the fact that he'd announced not that long ago that Liverpool was going to be, he was going to be leaving Liverpool at the end of this season, the fact that it was a young team, the fact they'd come over adversity. There was so much talk in the build-up to the game about their injury problems, the fact that they didn't have their talisman, Mo Salah, the fact that they had no Nunez. So who was going to step in to the void there that those iconic players had filled so many times for Jurgen Klopp and become the superstar? And it ended up being a collection of young kids from the academy that finished the game. And you got the sense watching Jurgen Klopp as well, not only in the celebrations, that during the game he was enjoying the moment. He was smiling, he was laughing, he was joking, and he had the courage to put these young players into the biggest environment possible, a Wembley Cup Final, and he trusted in those young players as well. So yeah, I thought it was brilliant. I loved watching every second, and it was one of those finals I felt like you weren't quite sure which way it was going to go. At one time you thought Liverpool might do it, and then you thought, well, Chelsea could do this. This is there for the taking. But I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And as well, you mentioned Jurgen Klopp enjoying it. Those young players, they did not look nervous heading out onto that pitch at all. We're going back pats and hugs from Jurgen Klopp. Let's hear from him, shall we? Because he did say that it was a very special day, and this is actually his exact post-match interview as he praised his young players.
I got taught outside that there's an English phrase, you don't win trophies with kids. I didn't know that. Yeah, right, it knew. It is in my longer career than mine, but in my more than 20 years, easily the most special trophy I ever won. It's absolutely exceptional.
Most special, and it was his 8th as Liverpool manager, by the way, 1 behind Kenny Dalglish. Remember, he's got 3 more trophies to play for this season. He's 3 behind Bill Shankly, but Bob Paisley's out there on his own with 20. And remember when he talks about his most special, when people say, oh, but it was only the EFL Cup. Remember when they won the Premier League, which was massive, it was behind closed doors for most of the season. And of course, they won the Champions League as well, which is obviously the most arguable one, but you can kind of see why that one meant so much to him.
I think it's the nature of the victory as well. It's not just the win, it's the fact of who was on the pitch for him as well. I mean, the Klopp kids, 5 players aged 20 or under featuring for Liverpool. And we've mentioned it already, Mark, that they came on full of confidence. They didn't look overawed by the conversation. And the performances they each put on, particularly the impact each of them had as well. They were making big plays as soon as they came on the pitch.
There's something special in the water in Liverpool, and you have to admire the courage not only of Jurgen to take these young kids and give them the opportunity, because I don't think there's too many managers that would, in a cup final at Wembley, put on the youngsters going, go and win us the game. Go and do something special. Go and create a name for yourself. And you've seen with Conor Bradley, who's been absolutely superb over the last few weeks and months, about the pedigree that these young players have. Let's take a look at the Liverpool finishing 11. And you can see the ages there as well. And obviously those players that came onto the pitch, the substitutes, and there's some special sons there as well. But you can see the ages. For example, Bobby Clark, who is Lee Clark's son, just 19 years old. Jarrell Quansah, who was on loan at Bristol Rovers last season. I watched him play in League One and he was really, really good. Only 21 years old. You can see James McConnell, ex-Sunderland, 19 years old. Lewis Koumas, the son of Jason Koumas, who's a familiar name with football fans, was an unused substitute. And Jayden Danns is the son of Neil Danns, who's 18 years old as well. And yeah, you don't win anything with kids. Jurgen Klopp has proved, as a magician, he can do anything.
There was a great line actually from Tom Alnett in the Times this morning saying that by the end of the game, Virgil van Dijk looked like the awkward dad on a stag do. Yeah. And you look at the age differences there and you can kind of see
He's still younger than all of us.
Same age as me, thank you, Mark. No, wait, that's a lie. Forgot how old I was.
I was thinking, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I lost a year.
But I'm going to shock you all here because understandably we're giving Liverpool a lot of praise for how young their team was, as we've just showed. However, Chelsea actually had a younger starting 11 than Liverpool yesterday. And of the 2 teams on the pitch at the end, again, Chelsea's was younger. All right, so you can kind of see there that the average age at the start was pretty much 2 years younger for Chelsea and about, a year and a half younger at the end of the match. So is that narrative unfair on Chelsea, giving Liverpool the praise for having that young team on the pitch, but actually Chelsea's was younger?
I think it was the impact of the substitutes, and it was the fact that these unknown players were being introduced on the biggest stage, particularly when you look at some of the appearances that they'd made. Quansah, just 8 appearances in the Premier League. Clark, just 4. McConnell, 3. Danns, 1. That's just 16 Premier League appearances combined for those young players, whereas the young Chelsea team obviously have played in the top flight a lot more. But when you look at the graphic there, actually quite amazing to think that Chelsea team that finished the game was younger than the Liverpool team. But again, it's about the narrative that the media creates, the fact that we're talking about these young Liverpool players, and it just almost skews what you're thinking.
Yeah, and we've just balanced it out there, so good work from the media. Now, good day to remember for Liverpool, then, in what could be their last Wembley final under Klopp, could be. Here's what some of the players had to say about their manager after the game.
Talks about obviously being Jurgen Klopp's last season. It's not within the squad, it's obviously from the outside world. We all have the same goals and doesn't change, so didn't change today either. But obviously, to experience this, knowing that obviously he leaves at the end of the season is always a good thing. So we'll see.
You know, we know the manager's leaving, everyone knows that, and you know, I think that one meant a lot to him with, like you said, so many players out and him putting, you know, trust in the young players and putting them on the pitch and them delivering like they did. You know, I think he'll be happy with that one, and we're just happy to produce a trophy for him and all his staff that, you know, will be leaving at the end of the season.
Since Jurgen announced the news, we want to make this year something special, and this starts with the trophy, so it's very good, but we definitely want more, and we will try.
You know, we just want to win everything for him again. You know, we want to go into each and every game and treat it as a cup final. The gaffer's been amazing for us and been amazing for my development and, you know, my time here at Liverpool, and I want to, you know, repay him with absolutely everything.
Very sweet stuff there, a very emotional Jurgen Klopp, and he has every right to be as well. We'll get to what Pochettino had to say after this, because obviously there's been a lot of talk about the way Chelsea played this one out in extra time. This is what he did say. The players started to lose their energy. Ben Chilwell felt really, really tired. Gallagher, after 5 minutes, we needed to change. The team felt maybe penalties would be good for us. The effort was massive.
Oh. No! Look, and the guys just mentioned it. At the end of the second half, second 45 minutes, the last 10, 15 minutes or so, it was all Chelsea. And you had all the young guys out on the field for Liverpool, and it felt like, well, if there was ever a moment in which Chelsea now takes a step forward, it is indeed in extra time. It is now when you're going to see this team somehow make the most of what has been a very disappointing season, and yet you have a clear chance to go and raise a trophy. And what did they do? They took a step back. Incredibly, they took a step back. And it tells me all sorts of different things, but it tells me about, more so than anything, about the mentality of the group, the mentality of the club. And now this quote from the manager tells me about where that mentality comes from. If your manager is telling you, or is telling us, that the players would be happy with penalties when they were on the front foot, when they were attacking, when they were creating the chances, they had the momentum, and they're saying, now we'll take it to penalties. That is if there was ever a loser's attitude, that's it right there. That's it. It's a loser's attitude. It's the attitude of a team that said, no, we're not quite cut out for this. It's one thing if one player is thinking it. It's one thing if a couple of players is thinking it. But when your manager is the one saying it, this is so troubling.
Let me just say, I couldn't be more disappointed with Chelsea. During the 90 minutes, even though the boys offered them that excuse, they played well. They played well against kids. You should. Extra time was an absolute disaster. I know post-game, to hear this from Pochettino, my first question in hearing that is, why are Chelsea so tired? Chelsea are not playing European football. They're not playing any more than anybody else. Why is this expensively assembled squad so much more tired than everybody else? The other aspect of this is Chelsea's season. I know they're still in the FA Cup. As I mentioned, they're not in Europe. They're not in any title contention. They're not in any top four contention. This is Chelsea's season. Liverpool are chasing a quadruple. Whether they get there or not, I'm sure we'll discuss that ad nauseum till the end of the season. But they are the team that had every single reason to leave it all out there. And they are the ones that grow tired. That, for me, I thought so much of the day was inexcusable from a Chelsea's perspective, which, in all honesty, I don't want to get into, because I think the bigger story here is Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp, who announces he's leaving, is cornered into playing kids. These are kids who have no experience at this type of level, no experience at playing in finals, no experience in playing against a squad such as Chelsea's, and he just allows them to go and play with the freedom. In his words, play like kids but defend like men. And I thought that was so rewarding to see, so rewarding to witness, for them to be able to walk off that pitch as champions. And that speaks volumes to the character of those kids, the character of those players, those senior players who served as the spine of that squad, including Virgil van Dijk, and to Jurgen Klopp and the culture that he's built around that football club. And that speaks volumes. And as I said, we'll discuss Liverpool and what's to come in the other 3 competitions for the next few weeks, but take nothing away from what we witnessed today. We witnessed a bunch of kids being thrown in at the deep end and their manager somehow convincing them they can swim, and they go out and win that swimming race. And that needs to be applauded.
It needs to be applauded. But in order for those kids to swim, using your analogy, Shaq, you need to have players out on the field with you that take you out to that deep end. And so Virgil van Dijk is leading the group. A guy like Luis Diaz, who ran until his legs fell off, essentially. He is literally running until the legs fell off. And that's Luis Diaz, who has won with Liverpool. That's Luis Diaz, who doesn't have nearly as much to prove as some of these other players from Chelsea. And he's running back and forth. And he's tucking inside, and he's defending, and he's attacking to the point to where, again, he blows his engine. And he can do it, but the guys from Chelsea can't. And the young guys can run with the ball freely, but the guys from Chelsea can't. The expensive, more experienced players can't. There was a sequence of play where Bobby Clark just grabbed the ball from the center backs and just ran through the middle of midfield. And there was unopposed by Chelsea. That so much so, it bothered so much so that it wasn't about the lack of legs at that point. It's just the lack of effort.
Yeah.
The lack of competitive pride that you just said it. This is your season. This is where you have to leave everything. There's nothing else other than this. There's no more important moment than the 30 minutes in the extra time. And Chelsea's attitude was one of, we'll wait for penalties. That is inexcusable.
Yep, not great. Chelsea will be back in action, as the guys mentioned, in the FA Cup. All of these games are available on ESPN+. We'll get a chance to see Liverpool as well. It is Chelsea taking on Leeds and Liverpool against Southampton.
We'll go to Wembley. We've just seen the conclusion of Liverpool taking on Chelsea.
Alvarez and out for a Brentford throw. We'll remind you of how the league table looks in just a moment. This is the only Premier League game taking place tonight, which makes the maths nice and simple. The ball comes back to me, who plays it back into his own box for Flecken. Looks to hit the ball down the right-hand side and does. The header is won at the back by Emerson. Comes up into the air. There's a battle for the ball, which lands toward Prowse. It's played through, looking for Bowen, but he can't quite get there. And the chance has gone for now. Ball comes back though to West Ham once again. It's Souček who hands it back towards Zuma. Ball given away and then hoofed away comfortably at the back by Kufal. It's been chased down the left hand side by Brentford. It's Onyeka trying to get there and can't, and it's gone out of play for a throw. First minute gone. Goalless at the London Stadium. Ingrained in my memory now for the rest of this game, I assure you. David Moyes looks very unhappy already on the touchline. He's been offered a new contract this week. He said he's going to think about it. Must be rather unflattering for a football club when they say to a manager, "I'd like to offer you a new contract." I'll think about it. West Ham win the ball back in the attacking third. It's a good high line of pressure. And this is some brilliant work from Kudus, and then, oh my word, oh my giddy arms. That's a poor effort. It's not even gone near the goal. It's not even gone near the goal line. It's gone out for a throw-in on the far side. Really not good from Kudus. But Kudus to him for trying the run. A couple of really good challenges to lead to that chance. So, Brentford with the throw, and it's an awkward one. It's thrown behind Ben Mee, who has to flick it away, and he's given it away to West Ham midway through the Brentford half. There's Alvarez, slides down to keep possession. Loose ball is just turned out of play by Lewis Potter on the far side, out for a West Ham throw. 2 minutes gone at the London Stadium. Won't forget that in a hurry now, will we? Throwing down the left-hand side. It's a 1-2 with Ward-Prowse. Comes back to Emerson, and down the left-hand side. It's a good run, and it's a curly run to the box. Lots of options. It's turned away. It was a poor effort in the end. Jensen with the clearance. And they really should have done better with that, West Ham. It was a really good run into the box. I think it was Alvarez with the run. And he had too many options, if anything, and took too long about it. Here's Emerson on the left-hand side, being held off by Lewis Potter. Drops it back down the line for Mavropanos. Turns it infield. 1-2 back to Mavropanos, comes across to the right-hand side. Here's Kufal, chips it down the line, turned away by Me. Won back by Souček, slides the ball to Kudus. Good challenge comes in from Norgard. Loose ball picked up though by Paqueta. Chipped towards the right-hand side of the box. Bowen chests it down, takes the touch, gets to the edge of the box. Reguilon on his 6th appearance, gets to him on the edge of the box, can't get the ball. Drop back to Souček, into the box. Oh, it's over the bar! And Souček kicks the post in frustration because he knows he should have buried that one for West Ham. 3 minutes gone, it should be 1-0. It's a brilliant ball chipped in, and there's a little flicked header from Ward-Prowse that just releases him one-on-one, 7 yards out, and he goes for the first touch contact and just spoons it over the bar and kicks the upright in frustration. That was a really good chance for West Ham. Goal kick taken, played out short. It's a quick 1-2 with Ben Mee. Back to the goalkeeper Flecken. Plays it out to the right-hand side again, short. Good turn on the ball. Played forward, looking for Onyeka. Good pressure from West Ham just inside the Brentford half to win it back. Here's Souček. It's a nice ball down the left-hand side for Ward-Prowse. Comes back to Bowen in the box. Bowen! What a goal that is! Cool as you like from the West Ham striker. Takes the touch to set the half volley and just hits it across the keeper, cool as you like, into the back of the net. 4 minutes gone, West Ham 1, Brentford 0. Well, Souček will feel a little bit better about himself for missing that chance just a moment ago. Bowen, his saviour. And it's the Hammers with an early hammer blow against Brentford. And it all starts, VAR will check here, but it's some good pressure on Onyeka to win the ball back just inside the Brentford half. And then they're just like lightning. It's a brilliant run down the left-hand side from Emerson. It's played back, lovely cutback from him. It's Alvarez who wins the ball back initially. Souček with the short ball, Paqueta through to Ward-Prowse, slips it in brilliantly for Emerson, cuts it back to Bowen. You've got to question the Brentford defence though here, because Bowen has time to take the touch, lets it bounce twice, and then gets the shot away. So questions to be asked of the Brentford defence there. But Bowen, cool as a cucumber. Lovely finish from him, but it's the set of the ball that impresses me. He doesn't panic, he doesn't snatch at the chance, takes his time, keeps composed, and hits his 12th goal of the season. League goal, I should say. 4 minutes and 4 seconds on the clock when that hit the back of the nets. And we're now 5 minutes 45 in. Brentford, not the start they would have wanted. Here's Ben Mee. It's a long ball down the right-hand side. It's been headed away. Won back by Paqueta. Can't keep hold of it. Onyeka. Back to Jensen. Oh, that's a loose ball forward. It's poor and given away to Souček and played forward for Bowen. And Bowen's got options here. It could be two, you know. Here's Kudus on the edge of the box. Kufal on the overlap on the right-hand side. Plays it in. Back to Bowen. It's 2-0. Bowen scored again. What a start for West Ham United. 6 minutes gone and it's 2-0. And Jared Bowen is on fire. Very similar goal. It's cut back to him and he just hits it. This time first touch. But what on earth is happening to Brentford here? West Ham 2, Brentford 0. And David Moyes looks far less frustrated than he did moments ago. And Brentford are just all over the shop. Ivan Toney's there, urging calm. But good grief, goodness gracious me, what a bad start this is for Brentford. Kudus with the overlap to Kufal, hits it first touch from Kufal, back to not quite the penalty spot, just in front of it, about 10 yards out. Bowen, first touch assist, first touch finish, 2-0 West Ham. I've not even had time to have a sip of my tea. We've already had 2 goals in this game. 7.5 minutes gone. We are back underway. Brentford trying to get back into the West Ham half, and West Ham just keep getting it away comfortably and coolly as you like. Ball now at the right hand side with Lewis Potter, plays it in short. It's Jensen, looks to switch the play on the left hand side. It's Reguilon, takes the touch down, plays it back to me, into Norgard, down the left hand side again. West Ham just all over Brentford every time they try and get forward. Here's Tony, jockeys the challenge, gets the ball out to Onyeka, plays it to the right hand side just to give them a little bit of space here. It's Jensen again, Zanka down the right with Lewis Potter, slips it down the right hand side towards the corner flag. It's picked up there by, who is that? Can't work out who that is. I'll find out in a minute, but it's got out of play for a throw-in. So early stats, but nonetheless 5 shots for West Ham, 2 on target, both of which have hit the back of the net, of course. 7 touches in Brentford's box, 51% possession. So throwing here for Brentford, and they are taking their time over this because it has been an incredible start from West Ham. They're looking to try and just break the game up slightly here and get it back in some sort of control. Throw-in's taken short, the cross comes in, it's looped in the air, that'll be an easy gather, and is for the goalkeeper. My oh my. Well, West Ham 10th in the table, 36 points. And Brentford are struggling. They've gone quietly towards the bottom of the table. They're only 5 points away from relegation, with Everton receiving 4 extra points today. Well, I say receiving 4, and 4 of the deduction removed. So that puts them above them into 15th. Brentford 16th in the Premier League table with 25 points. Not a position they'd like to be in. And this isn't a position they'd like to be in either. 2-0 down so early on at the London Stadium. Here's Ben Mee. Plays it to Ayer. It's forward to Norgard. Back to Ayer again. Play on the far side for a throw-in. Just a moment to finally just relax a second. It's been a crazy start to the game. Chance for not just the players but for us in commentary as well, just to have a quick breather and digest what we have just seen. Here's Zanka. Back to Flecken. Back to Ayer. Down the right hand side is Tony, helps it on its way. Lewis Potter just about evades the challenge, releases the ball. It's Zanka, gets the ball in, cleared away, it's chipped back in by Jensen, headed forward. Headed away at the back by West Ham. And Kudus is back to break it up and hits it long. Brentford pick it up at the back, and the header away by Ayer goes out for a West Ham throw. Quick word for Lucas Paqueta, by the way. He's been absent since the start of the year with a calf problem. He's been so influential in both goals so far. Calvin Phillips missing out today with his suspension, of course. 2 bookable offences against Forest. They haven't missed him so far, have they, West Ham? Plenty of game still to play, though. played out to the right-hand side. It's Zanka, back to Flecken, hits it long. Down the right-hand side, Zuma is there, gets the ball away. Loose ball picked up by Brentford. It's played down the right-hand side. Here's Tony. Tony slips in. That's a nice ball for Lewis Potter. And he turns towards goal, plays it into Morpay in the box. Oh, it's in the back of the net. Morpay's got Brentford back into this one. And we've got a real game in our hands here. It's West Ham 2, Brentford 1. He slid down as he hit it, Morpay. Got underneath it. I don't know how intentional that was, but that was the difference. It all starts with Zuma's half clearance. It's not great. It was picked up by Zanka. Tony played it through to Lewis Potter, slipped in a lovely ball for Morpay. I think that's deliberate for Morpay, you know, looking at this. I think he slides down and intends to do exactly what he does. It's a brilliant, intelligent finish from the Brentford striker. It's a lovely ball in from Lewis Potter. He just slides down, gets underneath it and scoops it past the goalkeeper. Beats him at his near post as well. It's the trajectory, the angle, because he's only 8 yards out and he slides down to get the angle and just put it as tight in the air as possible. Really, really clever finish. So 12 minutes gone, 13th minute of that goal. 13 minutes now gone. And it's West Ham 2, Brentford 1. We have had 3 goals in the opening 13 minutes. And it's been an insane start. Here's Lewis Potter. Going down the right-hand side. Brilliantly stopped by Paqueta. One back by Brentford. They've got it forward, and the tussle on the far side results in a West Ham throw. I've still not had any of my tea yet, by the way. I'm going to have a slurp now while I can. What a frantic game so far. West Ham hit the ball down the left-hand side. It's headed away by Aya, picked up by Lewis Potter, plays it down to Zanka. Back to Ben Mee inside the Brentford half in the centre circle now with Jensen, plays it forward to Norgard. On the right-hand side, it's Zanka again, played forward looking for Tony on the edge of the box, plays it forward. It's been slid away. Tony leaves the ball for Jensen. Chipped in by Lewis Potter. Nobody can quite get their head on it. And there's a foul there, I think, for West Ham as they're coming out of the box. The referee's not given that. I thought that was a foul. I think they're saying it was a penalty. I'm not sure if he was inside the box or not, to be quite honest. Take a look now. It was the contact was inside the box. It was Reguilon. And there was a shove from Kudus. It's one of those where some people will say it's a shoulder barge, other people will say that it's a foul. I think it's a shoulder barge. It's off the ball. See the argument for a penalty. He's not looking at the ball, he's looking at the player. The referee is quite happy. VAR will have watched it and the throw-in is going to be taken, so one assumes VAR have said not to worry. Throw-in is taken, and there really is some life in this game. I mean, it goes without saying there's been some life in it, but it feels like a real battle out there now. There's an offside just been flagged there by the linesman. West Ham with the ball now, down the right-hand side. Here's Kufal. Drops it back to Kudus. Back to Kufal again, tight to the touchline here. Oh, it's lovely to get past Jensen. Plays it into the box, and they couldn't get the shot away, and then it's spooned over by Paqueta at the far post. Not a bad effort, not from Paqueta, but generally from West Ham. Kufal and Kudus linking up beautifully, but Kufal there, that's cheeky. He slips it through the legs of Jensen, puts the cross in. Oh, it's naughty. It is naughty. He puts the cross in and it's flicked goalward by Souček. It's blocked. The loose ball comes to Paqueta, who just gets underneath it and puts it well over the bar. But from West Ham, here's Reguilon. to try and switch the play, and it's too short and given away, and West Ham now can build again, and Brentford need to stop giving the ball away in the midfield, because West Ham have been getting up like lightning and they're not giving them a moment's peace here, and Brentford need some time to recover and recuperate, and they are just inviting pressure over and over again. Here's Bowen, who they do not want to see on the ball anywhere near the box, plays it down the left hand side. It's turned back now to Paqueta. Good run in from him. He's run too far in the end. Brentford have won the ball back. It's a 1-2 there with Tony. Now in the middle, played out to the right hand side. It's a lovely ball out to Lewis Potter on the right. Thinks about putting the cross in. Drops it short instead to Tony. Back to Potter on the right hand side. Now Zanka. And back into the centre circle here with Aya and Norgard. Jensen. Lewis Potter right on the touchline. Lovely 1-2, which has been blocked brilliantly by Emerson. And West Ham pick up the loose ball. Now here's Bowen. Clattered down, and that is a foul. Onyeka, the guilty party. Free kick to West Ham in the centre circle. Just going back to the incident where there was the potential penalty with the shoulder barge from Kudus. Interesting, Reguilon held the ball. The referee gave the free kick, but no booking for the handball. Ball played back here to Areola. Long down the right hand side and hit away by Ben Mee. Forward down the right, Kudus heads it on, put away by Aya. And Brentford will be hoping to get players back sooner rather than later, particularly after the display we've seen so far in this game. Pinnock and Mbeumo will be vital to that. They're due back after the international break next month. And boy, are they being missed at the moment. Brentford have won all 5 top flight meetings, a 3-2 in the reverse game back in November, the latest of those, but West Ham did beat them in the FA Cup third round last year. The most recent victory in the league for West Ham against the Bees was 4-0 at Upton Park. That was back in the second tier back in April 1993. You wouldn't believe it on the evidence of tonight, would you? There's a stoppage in play here as Jared Bowen is down holding his left ankle. It's a bit too late to let him know you're there now after 2 early goals. He was challenged by Aya right in the D. The referee happy with the challenge. And then as Aya was coming out of the edge of the box with the ball, he was fouled. Free kick was given. Everybody's up and fit. He's currently out for a West Ham throw-in on this near side. It's played down to Kudus. Gets past his man. Crossing position. Crosses the ball in. Paqueta! Oh, it's wide of the near post. That was a really controlled volley at the far side. Just couldn't direct it goalwards, but it was good. Kudus made a lovely touch round his man to make the space for the cross. I thought Paqueta had scored, you know. Just watching it back, he just sliced it slightly. But when he first hit it, I thought it was in. Amazing to think we've had 13 shots and 3 goals and no corners yet. West Ham building again. Here's Kudus. Goes for it from distance and it's wide of the near post. He's been really impressive on the right hand side. It wasn't the best effort there, but you can see confidence is high for this lad today. It was Alvarez who played it short and the shot never really went goalwards. Flecken for the goal kick. Hit long and headed away. Picked up by Kudus. Doing down the right-hand side. Stops and turns it back to Suche. Back to Kudus again. Now Kufal on the touchline. Gets past Reguilon. Comes back to the halfway line. Lays the ball off for Mavropanos. Just inside the centre circle here. It's played out to Kufal on the right. Down the right-hand side to Kudus. Lovely 1-2. And Kudus still going down the right-hand side. Still going. Taken down by Reguilon. Free kick given. And the first booking of the game as well. Funny referee in that. Reguilon questions the referee when he's walking towards him with the yellow card, and he just looks at him in disbelief and then gestures to say, get out of it, go away. Definitely a yellow card. And that is his 5th yellow card of the season. So James Ward-Prowse stood over this one. It's a tight angle on the right. It's about 20 yards from goal. Crosses the ball in. It's headed away. Comes back to Ward-Prowse. Drops it down the right-hand side. It's Kudus. Back to Kufal. Switches the play. It's headed away. Paqueta volleys it back in. Headed by Zuma goes up in the air. And it's cleared away by Brentford. It's now gone out of play as Brentford try and go down the left-hand side through Morpay, and it was blocked comfortably by Mavropanos. Morpay takes the throw. It's gone out for another Brentford throw. Desire. To the right-hand side for Zanka. Down the line for Lewis Potter. That's a lovely ball further down the line for Tony. Looks to play it in. It's been turned away by Mavropanos. Some nice one-touch passing for Brentford. Forced the ball forward once more. Quite a bit of a muddle here. Ivan Toney's causing some problems. They've come away with the ball there, West Ham at the back. Not very long though. Midway through the half, they've given it away again. And Brentford come forward. It's Ivan Toney on the right-hand side of the box. Looks to cut it back. And it's been turned behind by Zuma and out for the first corner of the game. It's taken 25 minutes. Corner comes in. It's been blocked out for the second corner of the game. This one's going to be an in-swinger for West Ham. Comes into the near post. It's headed away. Out for a throw into Brentford. Sorry, I said for West Ham, didn't I? The corner. In-swinger for Brentford, I should have said. It's out for a Brentford throw. Jensen's going to be the one to take it. Drives the ball on his shirt. So a couple of options left and right for the short. And he's taken a few steps back towards the advertising. Comes up to the line and throws it long into the box. It's flicked into the air and then hit away by Paqueta. Comes back to Jensen. Drops it short for Potter. Tries to hit it in, doesn't get the height on that one. It's cleared away on the edge of the box. One back by Jensen, puts another ball in, turned away by Zuma this time. And Jensen just marshals this one out for a throw. There's a little niggly push on him there from Paqueta. Jensen clips the ball in, it's headed away again in the box. Picked up by Reguilon. It's a long ball forward into the box, it's headed away by West Ham at the back. And then the flag is up for an offside. The long ball forward, gathered comfortably by Kufal. Drops back short from Mavropanos, plays it back to Areola. On the left for Zuma. His clearance is blocked, but he does get to the loose ball first. Gets it away at the second time of asking. Here's Paqueta running towards the halfway line. Just drops onto the left for Emerson. He's been really good out wide as well today for West Ham. Got up and down the line really efficiently. It's back into the centre circle for Mavropanos again. Plays it down the right for Kufal. I thought it was another ball. It's a balloon on the pitch. It's just been popped. Kudus makes the space down the right, plays it in low, turned away in the 6-yard box by Ben Mee. And then stopped down the left before Brentford can counter-attack. And out for a Brentford throw. Approaching the half-hour mark in this game. West Ham 2, Brentford 1 live here on Flash Score. Really impressive start to the game. Back now to Ben Mee. It's down the left-hand side. Blocked out for another Brentford throw. To the goalkeeper again, Flecken hits it down the right hand side. Nobody wins the header, so it bounces comfortably to Zuma, who hits it down the left. Headed to Jensen now by Brentford, who hits it back to the keeper Flecken. Long ball, first touch from the keeper, bounces past the halfway line. Picked up by Lewis Potter. Slide challenge comes in. Fair one according to the referee. Out for a Brentford throw. West Ham have won the ball back. Run down the left-hand side. Stopped and turned back to Souček. Now here's Emerson. Lays it off short. It's Alvarez. Slips it to the edge of the box. It's played forward to Kudus in the area. It's been marshalled well by Ayer, who gets it out free. Throw in on the far side to West Ham. Throw is taken short. Here's Paqueta, tripped. Referee says no. It's gone out for a throw into Brentford, and Paqueta is not happy that he didn't get that decision. Might have been looking for it. West Ham back in possession in the centre circle here. It's turned out to Kufal on this near side. Just inside the West Ham half. Plays it forward. It's been blocked but lands to a teammate in Bowen. Now here's Zuma. Plays it down the left. Plenty of space here for Emerson. And still going. Lays it off to Alvarez. It's a quick 1-2. Now forward to Emerson once more. Gets to the edge of the box. Lays it off to Paqueta, in fact, this time on the left-hand side. Back to Emerson inside the box. Dinks it in. Kudus with a header forward. Paqueta was blocked and went down. But there was never any appeals for a penalty there. It's out of play for a goal kick. Well, West Ham have equalled their longest competitive winless streak from the beginning of a calendar year. It's 8 games. Happened in 1922 and 1997. But they're on course to break that today. Here's Kudus. Goes for it from the edge of the box. It was a tame effort. Gathered comfortably by the goalkeeper. Here's Jensen. In the centre circle for Brentford. Straight into the West Ham half, plays it down the left-hand side for Reguilon. Stops on the ball, turns and plays it back to Jensen. West Ham sitting back deep at the moment. There's Norgard in the centre circle, plays it to the right. It's Zenka. Down the right to Lewis Potter, 1-2 back to Zenka. Turns it back to, I was going to say Flecken, but it wasn't. It was Ayer who was sat there. Forward to Jensen again. Is Norgard. Ben Mee, just outside the centre circle, plays it forward to Ivan Toney, back to goal, turns it back to Ayer again. 1-2 with Toney. Back to Flecken. 1-2 with Jensen. Flecken now inside his 6-yard box, takes the touch, plays it short to the left. It's Ben Mee. Plays it down the left and he's given it away. It's going to go out for a throw-in. It was Kufal tried to keep it in play, wanted to capitalise, but it's out for a West Ham throw. Taken quickly to Kudus, flicks it back to Alvarez. Down the left-hand side for Emerson. There's Alvarez again, looking to try and release Emerson on the overlap. It's overhit. Brentford can clear it out through Jensen for a West Ham throw. Ten minutes to go till the break. Ball thrown down the left-hand side. Emerson crosses it in. It's headed away. Brentford keep control of possession on the edge of their own box. Slid forward for Toney. Plays a lovely long ball down the right-hand side. If Brentford can get there first, it's been slid out of play brilliantly at the back by West Ham. Ahead of Lewis Potter getting there. It was Mavropanos who came across. Throw-in's taken. Toney tries to volley it in low. It's been blocked and hooped away at the back. Now here's Lewis Potter on the right for Brentford. Stops and drops it back. Slipped in. Man goes down in the box for Brentford. There's no appeals, there's nothing in it. Cross comes in looking for Toney, headed away. Picked up again on the edge of the box here by Jensen. Dummies the shot, trying to make some space here. Does manage to clip it in. It's chested back to the goalkeeper by Souček. West Ham coming forward again. They've been really good on the counter-attack today. Here's Kudus. Oh, it's wide. It's a long ball from the goalkeeper that started that one. The header away went straight to Kudus on the halfway line. Danced his way past one, past two, and then struck it from 25 yards wide of the far post. Again, I said it earlier, confidence is very high for him today. 37 minutes gone. Here's Onyeka. Now with Jensen. Tries to hit it from 30 yards. It's been blocked by Souček. Comes back to the halfway line. Some block that. Ben Mee down the left-hand side. It's Reguilon. Not a great passing field. Given away. West Ham cleared the ball. Down the right-hand side. Ben Mee manages to somehow play it brilliantly down the line to Tony without it going out of play. Tries to get the ball turned in for Maupay. It's been picked up by Kurt Zouma. Down the line here for Kudus. Cuts in behind Jensen. Plays it across to Ward-Prowse. It's now Paqueta on the left. Gingerly makes his way towards the box. Triangle passing from West Ham on the left-hand side. 38 minutes gone on the edge of the box here with the Hammers. Slipped in looking for Bowen, who's on a hat-trick. Cleared away and out for a West Ham throw by Aya. Here's Kufal. Very central position. Drop back to Mavropanos. Leaves the ball to run on this near side for Kudus. Turns it back to Zouma. Now here's Mavropanos again. Oh, it's a lovely crossfield ball. It's been headed away by Zanka though. That was a really nice effort from the Hammers defender. Jensen. Easy square ball to the right hand side for Zanka. Down the right for Lewis Potter. West Ham still passing the ball around. Brentford getting frustrated. It's down the left. Here's Souček's been pegged into the corner by Aya. Into the final 5 minutes of the first half. It's a foul there. Goes West Ham's way right on the touchline. Paqueta taken down by Maupay. Free kick is midway through the Brentford half, and it's only about a foot, if that, inside on the touchline. Taken short. West Ham make their way to the edge of the box, and it's chipped in, and it's a header flicked over the bar by Souček. Another decent attack though from West Ham. Really have been very impressive today. It's amazing to think they're only one goal in the lead. I think they might go in disappointed at that, to be honest, West Ham, when they have the half-time team talk, because they know half-time's such a pivotal point in a game that to go in with a one-goal lead isn't game, set and match. The opposition will come out after a team talk and look to right some wrongs. But West Ham, the performance level comparatively to Brentford, it's not that of someone who are one goal ahead. It feels far more impressive than that. is Tony. Plays it down the left for Reguilon. Dropped back to Jensen. In for Ben Mee, chips it to the edge of the box. Laid off for Reguilon again, who looks to cross the ball in. It's been blocked out for a throw. Comes in. Aya with the flicked header was never going to trouble the keeper. That's gone out at the near post. It's going to be a West Ham goal kick. 90 seconds left of the first half, plus there'll be some added time, of course. Goal kick taken. Headed away, picked up by Souček, hits it down the right hand side. It's been stopped by Ben Mee. Feeds it to Aya, squares it across for Zanka. Down the right hand side.